thing is that everyone's on the hunt for cool spaces, and it's interesting. Philadelphia, one of out of a few major cities along the 95 corridor, not giving out free air conditioning. I was actually looking at how in New York City they're giving out free air conditioning units to eligible residents. In Baltimore, they're doing the same. In Philly, you got to desperately hunt around for cool spots. You got to look for cool buses, and hopefully you'll find a library or two that'll be open where you can sit under some air conditioning for a limited period of time that doesn't do anything for when you have to sleep through it, or if you're an elder person and you have to suffer through this heat. So, but there definitely is an urban heat island in effect in Philly. It is very dangerous. It's not a joke. It's not a simple matter as to just, look for an open fire hydrant or go to a water fountain. This is something that really the city is going to have to talk about and going to have to plan around and do better, because this has been going on in Philly for a number of years and in a number of other places, a number of other major cities as well. And black communities are always, unfortunately and tragically so, on the front line of that. Joining us actually this morning, we have a special guest. She's back with us. It's been a while since we last talked to her. Tiffany Cross. Tiffany Cross, now author of Say It Louder, Black Votes, White Narratives. She's also a 2020 resident fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School's Institute of Politics. You see her quite a bit nowadays on MSNBC, and you see her quite a bit as well. You see her engagements on social media, on Twitter more specifically. She is at Tiffany D. Cross. It's good to talk with her, and she joins us by phone. Tiffany, how are you doing?
Hey, Charles. Great to be back on with you. I'm doing as well as one can be doing in these crazy 2020 times.
Right. Crazy, dark, and uncertain times. So I hope you're keeping safe. You sound safe and you sound well. It really is good to talk with you. And I'm curious, what's this been like promoting a book? Because your book just dropped this year. So you've had to promote a book during a pandemic. And if that hadn't come along, you'd more than likely be on a book tour. But is this experience offering you, as someone who's in media and, in media at the highest levels, is this offering you new lessons on the ways in which media, the written word, and audiences of that content evolve?
Definitely. So my book, Say It Louder, Black Voters, White Narratives, and Saving Our Democracy, launched at the height of the pandemic when the entire world was shut down. However, this is, sadly, the news cycle had given me quite a boost, because I wrote this book before Ahmaud Arbery, before Breonna Taylor, before George Floyd, but I was referencing every single thing that was happening this year. I wrote extensively about police brutality and how law enforcement swelled their ranks with white supremacy. I was writing about the fractures in our democracy. I was writing about the superheroes Black people are, and I've never been really thanked for it. So I was actually very busy. And because everything was digital, it gave me opportunities to do things that I would have had to spread out or had to turn down. The part of my book tour, ironically, was going to be in the south of France at some of the Cannes diversity panels. And that was going to take me out the game, for a minute. But because everything was digital, I was able to do that 1 hour, the next hour, do the Harlem Book Fair, the next hour, talk to somebody on radio, so it's actually been going well. But the book focuses on media and Black voters. So obviously I have a lot of thoughts on the media landscape and how it can be more inclusive, particularly for, Black authors, for sure.
Yeah, offering you new strategies. And so you went from the Beat DC, fantastic newsletter, a lot of us relied on it, to now this book, and now you have regular rotation on MSNBC. So this has all moved incredibly fast for you. What's that overall, like, I don't know, mentally, and I mean, we see what's happening professionally for you, but mentally, what's that transition been like?
Well, Charles, you and I have known each other for a long, long time, so I don't know that I would say it's moved quickly, because I think perhaps in the public eye, but I've been in news spaces for over 20 years now. So for me, it ain't felt quick, my brother. It felt like a long time. It felt like a real long time coming. But no, it's been great. I mean, look, going from the control room to the green room has been quite the transition. Going as a guest to a host, I'll be filling in for AM Joy routinely until they name a permanent host on MSNBC. That's been quite a transition. Having a book out, as a part of this has been amazing. And honestly, with all of this, the book is probably my biggest feat, I would say, because, I really wanted to say something unapologetically Black and unfiltered and write without fear of retribution from any entity. And I was able to do that. And so I just feel like this is my stake that will live long beyond me. And I'm happy I didn't write this with the intention of, if I say this, then maybe, cable news outlets will get mad. Or if I say this, maybe, print outlets will get mad. I'm happy I wrote without fear and can leave something that encompasses the entire Black experience and the failures of this democracy and the failures of a media landscape that has never really covered us with the nuance and intensity that we deserve.
That's right. We're talking with, if you're just now tuning in, we're talking with Tiffany D. Cross. You probably read her book recently, Say It Louder, Black Voters, White Narratives. It just came out this year. She's also, you're very familiar with her. You go to @Tiffany D. Cross on Twitter, where she's highly engaged. She's also now a 2020 resident fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School's Institute of Politics. And you see her on regular rotation and now doing fill-in hosting at MSNBC as they reconfigure the lineup. Big historic day yesterday with Joy Reid starting in the primetime evening lineup. So I know you're real proud to be a part of that, Tiffany. Talking about your book and Say It Louder, Black Voters, White Narrative. So you're clearly frustrated by not only how misunderstood the Black electorate is, right, but how society repeatedly abuses it. And you weigh the paradox of an America that wants to simultaneously discard Black people, but its democracy can only be saved by Black political energy and power. So talk to us about the mission, your mission of convincing Americans of how essential Black political power is.
Well, the book really focuses on the role of the media and Black voters. And so my contention is when the media landscape reaches this American experience, they destroy democracy at the same damn time. And we've seen that over and over and over again. In these conversations in mainstream media tends to center white people. Even when they consider white people's history, white people's finances, white people's labor stats, all of it. Even when we talk about voters, you hear NASCAR dads and soccer moms, and this is all euphemisms for white people. But the same names could be applied to Black. You could have basketball dads. You could have, I can't wait to get off work at 5 o'clock for these white people to stop messing with me, moms. You can have, I don't have time for BS aunties, but we're never afforded those cute little colloquialisms. Even voters, when the media talks to voters and they go into these diners where no Black or brown people eat, and these are considered voters from the heartland. But, I give this example a lot. When you go to Golden Corral in Montgomery, Alabama after church lets out, I bet you those are some voters from the heartland. If you roll up on somebody in Philly,
right.
Are those voters from the heartland, a swing state, I would even add? And so I am really just trying to make the point that, hey, Black people are every bit as framers of this country as the people who wrote the Constitution. We built this country. We freed ourselves. And name a war Black folks ain't fought in. Name any aspect of this democracy Black folks have not had a direct hand in. The wealth that Black people created for this country, from the cotton fields to the sugar fields to the steel industry, and we ain't never benefited from any of it. And so when we are treated during election season as though a seasonal commodity instead of a necessary function and savior of this country, something has to change. So the media landscape, which filters so much of what comes from the political landscape, has to catch up because we are the rising majority of this country, and they haven't quite realized that yet. So this book demands that they do, or they'll get left behind.
What do you think the role of Black media is in all of this?
Very important. So I write a lot about the important role of the Black press during the early part of last century. And in many ways, the Black press was sounding the alarm, saying, get out, flee the South. They're killing us. They offered testimonies from people up north. Not that the North was this shining beacon of hope. It was just a different kind of racism awaiting Black folks then. but you could escape with your life, perhaps not your livelihood all the time. And so Black press continues to play an important role, even now with this effort to cover people of color. And you see certain outlets saying, oh, we're going to have a race editorial team. That still treats us as though we're the side dish, not the main dish. And I don't look like no French fry, and you don't look like no mashed potatoes. So we have to still force them, like, hey, you all can keep doing that as long as you want, but you're still missing the point. And so for me, I read the Washington Post every morning, New York Times every morning, but I also read The Root. You know, I also follow Michael Harriet, you know, who has broken news stories before and has a very witty way of writing. And so the landscape is just not inclusive enough. So I come from Black press. I will always support Black press because they continue to play an integral role in this democracy that still tries to sideline Black folks.
You know, how do we guard against this tendency, Tiffany, to worry so much about like what the white people think, right, or what the white people will do, how they think will influence the outcome of a major election like this one? How do we guard against that?
Well, you know, I don't really understand that way of thinking, but it is something that I've tried to politely engage folks in conversation around. I think Black people, because we've been so historically brutalized in this country, that we tend to vote out of fear, and we are going to have to learn to exercise our power. Black people, with our vote, we tend to vote in ways that we think white people will support. We can't vote. We don't have the luxury of voting for our idealistic candidate who's speaking to everything we want, because it's always filtered through, but will white folks support this person? Well, that paradigm is shifting, and it's going to be uncomfortable for some folks to realize, hey, the white folks need to start looking at you to see what you're going to do, because you are eventually going to outnumber them at the ballot box. We're not there yet, but it is happening. And for the first time this year, the Latinx community eclipsed Black voters in terms of eligible voters, not registered voters. The Asian American Pacific Islander community is the fastest growing demographic in this country. Native American pockets across this country decide federal elections. And so as the rising majority, we have to start getting comfortable sitting at the epicenter of political power. And I would say particularly Black women. Black women, we don't have the luxury to say, well, my candidate didn't, you know, win the primary, so I'm not going to vote. Like, that is just a straight privilege BS, you know, that we just don't have. We don't have access to those kind of attitudes. So I encourage Black people to stop voting that way and to make demands, because nobody complains about it when the gun lobby makes these demands, when evangelicals make these demands, when single-issue voters make these demands. We need to start harnessing our power and making the same demands without fear.
Yeah. I like how, and say it louder, how you unpack the phenomenon of breaking news, right? You write that the breaking news is the permanent fixture across television screens. And, you know, is this all breaking news? No, you write. Once viewers recognize this tool as deceitful, it dilutes how viewers respond to actual breaking news. And that's a constant struggle within newsrooms. You know this, being in media as long as you've been. We all know this, being in media. I've been in media perhaps a much shorter time than you've been. But there is this constant tension, right, between determining what is essential news, the type of news that the public should be absorbing, that the public should be exposed to. Talk a little bit about that constant friction between the breaking news and the necessary essential news.
Sure. So one example is in 2017, when the beef happened with Donald Trump and former FBI Director James Comey. And Donald Trump tweeted that he hinted that he may have potentially taped conversations between he and James Comey. And the media went wild. It was breaking news across all the networks. Every channel you turn to, breaking news, Donald Trump may have taped conversations. And that was when we got, ooh, Lordy, I hope there are tapes, that whole ridiculousness. Well, that same day, then Attorney General Jeff Sessions had sent a memo to all local prosecutors to push for maximum sentencing around what had previously been dismissed as low-level crimes. So just like that, mandatory minimums are brought back. But you didn't hear about any of that on any of the major networks. There was no breaking news banner for that. Why? Because that's a policy that disproportionately impacts Black and brown people. So to them, the breaking news was appealing to the chattering class of D.C., appealing to political reporters, appealing to people who were so engaged in the minutia of D.C. Beltway gossip, not to a policy that was going to have an adverse impact on a huge amount of people in this country. And so that's just one example of many of how media has a direct impact on democracy, especially when ignoring Black people and Black voters.
Real quick, I got you for another minute, Tiffany. It seems like Joe Biden doesn't have much of a choice but to pick a Black woman running mate. You actually co-authored,
I mean,
you co-wrote.
You think so.
That's what we think, right. What we hope, right? What's your take on that? How much of a difference will that make in 2020, and who do you think it will be?
So as you're about to mention, my apologies, I interrupted you, but I did co-author a piece with my friends and colleagues, the great actress Amanda Seales, Angela Rye, my longtime friend, Brittany Packnett, the activist, Sunny Hostin, my good friend from The View, Latasha Brown of Black Voters Matter, and Lucia Garza, the founder of Black Lives Matter. And we declared that we think Joe Biden should pick a Black woman as vice president. We also, in that same op-ed, laid out very specific policy proposals and hyperlinked a comprehensive Black agenda that the Black Futures Lab came up with after polling over 30,000 Black voters. So, I think, it's going to be incredibly difficult for Joe Biden to go into some of these communities. Yes, there's a healthy sense of nostalgia for him. And I think there are a lot of people who are in love with the idea of a 2008 Joe Biden who stood by President Barack Obama for 8 years. But the reality of a 2020 Joe Biden looks a little different. And when he's at the top of the ticket, he will need the hand of a Black woman. Now, it's not how Black are you, it's how Black are your policies. So just out here plucking any random, look, he could name Omarosa as his running mate. Black folks ain't going to be happy about that, So it really is a Black woman with the ability to lead, because he will be, making history as one of the oldest presidents in our office. So we have to think second term. We have to think down ballot. The House and the Senate are also up for grabs. So who is somebody who, if we weren't in the global pandemic, who could pack arenas, who could excite the base, who people will wait in line for hours to see? And I think he has an embarrassment of riches when it comes to that. I hope he doesn't make the mistake in thinking just because someone's Black or a member of the Congressional Black Caucus that they are in a position to satisfy all Black Americans. So, it's tough out here. I think there are a few obvious choices that it feels like the campaign might be going out of their way not to make. And I hope that's not true. There is no perfect candidate. Everybody's going to have, a legislative record to contend with. But that makes them no different from the 45 men who have been able to be president. So we got to pray, Charles, because I really don't know what's going to happen in this election.
Yeah, it's hard to predict.
We got to get this white supremacist out of the White House. But the challenge that Biden needs to realize is Black folks have survived so many devils. We have lived devil after devil after devil. And so not everybody makes the connection between Trump's policies that he's perpetuated through systems of white supremacy and their own lives. Yeah. So get excited. And Biden is not that excited.
Yeah.
He needs somebody to help him get the folks excited.
And it shows us some very troubling signs in the polls as well, at least recent polls. I don't think, we keep seeing this like 9 or 10 percentage point gap nationally between Trump and Biden. And so it might seem positive for Biden. It might even seem positive in some battleground states, but I'm still seeing some troubling signs. I don't think that gap is wide enough, right, in a time of pandemic.
Yeah, I think, we're looking at a lot of national polls, but in some of these local polls, they're still running neck and neck. We have to look at these battleground states, what they're going to look like in Florida, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. And with that can come some challenges, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah. We've been talking with Tiffany Cross. She is author of the new book, Say It Louder, Black Voters, White Narratives. And she's also on MSNBC on regular rotation, also doing a lot of hosting these days as well. She's at Tiffany D. Cross. You knew her as the founder of the BDC. She's also currently a 2020 resident fellow at the Harvard Kennedy School's Institute of Politics. Once again, go to at Tiffany D. Cross on Twitter, where you can engage her there, see what her musings are
And
for the day.
Instagram.
Oh, that's right. Don't forget about Instagram. Don't forget about Instagram. I need to get on Instagram more, so I'm more like just straight Twitter. But yeah, absolutely. I'd love to see you on there as well. Tiffany, it's been a pleasure, as always.
Thank you so much, Charles. And I hope everybody tunes in this weekend. I'll be in the host chair at MSNBC 10 to 12, 10 a to 12 p. Eastern Standard Time. Tweet me and tell me what you think about the show if you're tuning in.
I will. I'll definitely do that. Looking forward to it. You take care. Be safe, Tiffany.
Thanks.
All right.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. We're going to take a break. When we come back on the other side, we're going to talk with Marche Doss. Marche Doss is a student mentor and youth leader for the Los Angeles Unified School District. She's going to talk about random weapons searches in public schools. And so it's an issue that's near and dear to her and quite a few people in major, large urban center school districts. So we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll be talking with Marche Doss here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM. Also, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Do you need health insurance for your children? The Children's Health Insurance Program, also known as CHIP, provides quality, affordable health insurance for Pennsylvania kids. CHIP ensures that kids can go to the doctor, receive health screenings and vaccines, and get what they need to live a healthy childhood. Families can be covered by CHIP no matter how much money they make. If you've experienced a recent change in employment or income, CHIP may be a good option for your family. Visit chipcoverspakids.com to apply or learn more.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent black media.
This message is from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. COVID-19 is still a threat in our communities, but we can all do something simple to help stop the spread. It's critically important to wear a mask or face covering whenever you're in public or around others. Yes, even while social distancing. Wearing a mask shows you care for yourself and your community and is essential to slowing the spread of COVID-19. So love yourself, love your neighbors, wear a mask.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, we're waiting on Marche Doss. She's a student mentor and also youth leader for the Unified School District of Los Angeles. She's out there on the West Coast, and she's been leading her own Black Lives Matter movement inside the LA Unified School District. It's a massive school district, one of the largest school districts in the country. She's been fighting against, more specifically or more in particular, random weapons searches and the mistreatment of students in the LA Unified School District system. She's a high school student herself. She's been working on this issue for quite some time, actually for about a couple of years now, written a column or two in Teen Vogue. So we're supposed to have her on. She's scheduled to come on. She's not on yet. We'll open up the phone lines in the meantime. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. We're just waiting on Marche Doss, and in the meantime, we'll just go ahead and open up the phone lines. Many of you are also watching us through Facebook Live on Word TV. And thank you, Roxanne Jones. Roxanne Jones, great guest, Tiffany Cross. I'm sure she definitely appreciates that, and we appreciate her making some time for us. Also, Melissa Brunson, Tiffany made an excellent point. 45's outrageous behavior and tweets always mask dark substantive changes that are made right under our noses. Melissa, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you listening in as well. Nakia Twin Campbell, good morning, Attorney Michael X. Cord. Michael Cord is in the stream. He's in the stream, so I see his fist and exclamation point. I see him in the stream quite often. So, Michael, really appreciate you always tuning in and listening in. because I do see you in the stream sometimes. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, Brev, and I appreciate your time and your presence as well. So Nakia Twin Campbell also appreciates it from the angriest black man in America. Love you for life. And Nakia Twin Campbell. Good morning, Queen Tiffany Cross. Love you, doll. So I'm sure Tiffany appreciates that as well. And thank you, Nakia, for listening. And it's good to see you too. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065, toll free. 866-361-0900. Once again, we are in the grips of a heat wave in Philly proper and a number of other places and cities as well. So everyone needs to stay cool as much as they can. Some of the recommendations that the Department of Public Health is giving to avoid heat-related illness, use air conditioners. Okay, that's easier said than done, especially when you live in Philly. If necessary, go to an air-conditioned location for several hours during the hottest parts of the day. If you visit a public place with air conditioning, remember to wear a mask while inside and stay at least 6 feet away from anyone you don't live with. Does anyone find that crazy? Like, I'm just, I mean, I understand. I mean, it's the most common sense of recommendations or advice that a public health department can give in a time like this when you have this much excessive heat. But it's just surreal and insane and just infuriating on so many levels that the city, even after all these years of accelerating heat waves in Philadelphia, the city just never has a solid response to the heat. Just never has. I mean, beyond cooling centers and beyond people just running about looking for cool spots. And those cool spots can't stay open 24 hours a day. I mean, have you ever tried to sleep through a heat wave? So it's not like these public spaces that people have to hunt around for, and it's even a bit more desperate when you're in a pandemic and when there are all sorts of limitations on public spaces as is. It's just insane. It's even more insane to me that public officials, that the public at large is not outraged about this. And it's not so much being outraged at the heat, at the sun, because climate crisis is going to do what climate crisis does. Mother Nature is going to do what Mother Nature does. But there are ways, there are all sorts of public policy that we could be shaping, that the city could be shaping now to respond a bit more robustly to a crisis like this. And it's just not doing. I'm seeing other cities do it. Here we go once again, where Philly fails to do or fails to borrow good ideas and functional ideas from cities that are literally right up the road from where we are. And Philly is a major Eastern Seaboard city, and it just has to do better. If New York City can do it, if New York City can distribute to date, I think it's about 80,000 free air conditioning units, 80,000 free air conditioning units to eligible residents in New York City. That's a big effort, you know, and to be able to find the funding, even during a time of limited strict budgets and pandemic. Baltimore, a smaller city, it's about 600,000 people. It's about half the size of Philly. But they're working with a much slimmer budget than Philly. Even they were able to find, like, you know, put together, it was a multi-agency effort. They found some philanthropic funding, and they've been giving out thousands of free air conditioning units to suffering low-income black residents in the city of Baltimore, because the city of Baltimore is a majority black city as well. I just don't understand, like, and then you look at Philly and people are literally scrambling around for their lives looking for a cool space. And we think that that's acceptable. We think that that's the norm. That's just a normal thing to do. And, you know, or look for a fire hydrant somewhere, look for a pool somewhere. And those are obviously in short supply because of the pandemic. So it's a different kind of hot, excessive heat summer than previous summers in Philly. It just galls me to no end that people in Philly think that this is normal, that nothing can be done. And I'm seeing other cities do things that Philly should be doing as well. It just galls me to no end. It galls me to no end. Let me go to Joe out of Germantown, who's calling in for a reality check. Joe?
Hey, number 20. Hey, brother Charles and number 21, brother Troy. How y'all doing today?
How you doing? All right. How you making out? Hope you're staying cool. All right, brother. All right.
Yes, I am, Charles, and I hope you're doing the same. And Charles, before talking about subject matter, the sister you had on before, what's her name?
Oh, just now, Tiffany Cross.
Sister, what's her name?
Tiffany Cross.
Tiffany Cross, yeah.
Right.
I want to make sure I quote the sister right, because I get in trouble if I don't quote the right. Did I not hear the sister say it about all my friends? My mom, Charles, because like she said, we have black people voting at devil after devil. That's what she said?
Okay, say that again, man, because you kind of your phone is a little garbled. But go ahead.
Then Tiffany says that we as black folks have been voting for devil after devil in these elections. Did she say that?
She did say that. Yeah, she did reference that while we were talking to her last. Right.
All I'm going to say on that, Brother Charles, she is absolutely right. And we'll be voting for a devil this time, which one we want to choose, the lesser two evils. She's right about that. But anyway, Charles, I'm not going to bore you too long. I just want to share this with you, Charles. The sister, she's going to have one about the violence with the schools, about she was pushing back against the checks of the students and everything like that in Los Angeles.
Right.
You said?
Right. Right. She's supposed to come on, but I don't know where she is. She's out there on the West Coast.
I know we as black, but we got some problems in our schools in the inner city. There's no question about that. But it was saying to me, Charles, I'm sure, Charles, you better the thinking man that you are. Why do these white suburban schools, when you used to come back Columbine, you saw what happened down in Florida, it was saying to me, you need to have these checks at these white suburban schools where these white boys go off and shoot up the whole damn school. We think you should have some checks in those schools. I mean, that would seem like logical to me, Charles. Maybe I'm missing something here. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a very good point. I mean, you'd have like, I don't know where Marche Doss is, but hopefully she'll come on soon. But she's running out of time. The LA Unified School District, the administrators, faculty there would say, okay, well, they would rationalize that we have to bring in school officers, school police officers. We have to do metal detectors. We have to do random searches of bags and of clothing because they've had a series in LA. Since I think 93, 94, they had a series of violent incidents within the school. So they feel like, okay, well, that's justified. But then you've got mass shootings that happen in these rural and suburban, ex-urban areas, and you don't get that same kind of response, right? And these are also in areas where, gun owning or the possession of guns is a pretty common thing. It's a pretty common cultural thing, right? Guns on the back of a rack in a pickup truck. So that's a fairly common thing. And the kids knowing how to use the guns, that's a fairly accepted cultural norm in those kinds of communities. And so you have to wonder, like, okay, well, why not the same response in those same communities? And that's what Marche Doss, that's what he's been talking about and writing about in publications like Teen Vogue. We were looking forward to having her on, but I'm not sure what happened. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's definitely a big contrast in terms of how people are treated. I mean, going back to what Tiffany was saying, Tiffany was also saying that Joe Biden has to realize that, yes, black folks have had the political experience of having to choose devil after devil. I'm just not, like I said, and I've said this before, I'm not convinced that this is a lesser of two evils election. I think that Joe Biden is a problematic candidate. Does that make him an evil candidate? No, it just makes him a very problematic, there's some things that we have to unpack and ask him about and hold him accountable for as far as his policymaking in the past. But he's not the only one. I mean, that's every elected official, state, local, and federal. They all make questionable policy decisions. I don't think we're dealing. I mean, we're dealing with a really old dude. It's not the preferred candidate by any stretch. But folks are going to have to learn how to. I mean, to get through this really threatening existential moment. People are going to have to learn how to embrace Joe Biden. Like, you're just going to have to embrace him, because I don't think he's a lesser. I don't think he's a lesser of two evils. I don't. People are going to have to. You have to get through it. Because I mean, what's the alternative? I mean, Joe, what's the alternative? Like, who else are we going to vote for, and who else, and how, and not voting for Joe Biden and then prompting him to lose? What does that? What's that do for anybody?
Well, Charles, let me say this, Charles. I'm voting for Biden. I'm a Bernie man. I'm voting for Biden, but I'm not going to embrace him. I'll vote for him because I just think the alternative is at this point might be worse. But I can't embrace. Only way I can ever embrace him, he got to show me that he's unequivocally got enough heart as a white man to stand up and do things. Let
me ask you something though, Joe. Real quick, let me ask you something though, Joe, because I want to get your insight on this. Because what I'm worried about is that kind of conversation. So and that's good. I mean, you're going to vote. And you're going to vote for, because you understand the enormity of the moment, you're going to vote for Joe Biden. But But people, you know, us constantly saying, "Oh, he's the lesser of two evil." It's like we're psyching ourselves out. Like we're also discouraging other folks who might either be on the fence or, you know, you've got like a huge chunk of the black electorate right now that's saying, I'm seeing a lot of polling data that's saying, you know what, I don't want to vote. Period. And I just think that it's becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy after a while. Like we get into this negative conversation and we're psyching ourselves out of getting motivated and mobilized to not only get ourselves out there at the polls or by the mail-in ballot, but also discouraging other people from getting motivated and mobilized to the ballot.
I'm gone. I said this, and I get off, Charles. You're right to a certain degree what you're saying, Charles. But see, as Jay McCullough said on Solomon's show a couple of times, see, it's not up to black folks to be. It's up to Joe Biden to make black people and other people enthusiastic about his candidacy. See, that's up to him. That's on a candidate. See. In other words, you just can't go with the theory that Trump is bad and that's it.
Yeah.
What Joe Biden got to do, he has to come out there and tell people, say, we all know Trump is bad, but
I agree with that.
I'm going to do this, X, Y, and Z. If you give me a chance to be president, if Biden can do that, then they'll have people enthusiastic about his candidacy. But you just can't vote on this.
I partly agree with that, but I have a different take on it. I think we're all responsible. Joe Biden's responsible. We as black voters are responsible. White voters are responsible. We're all responsible. First of all of us are in one way or another. We're all responsible for how we ended up here in the first place. It's not all Trump's fault. Trump is a reflection of who we are as a society and what we didn't do when we knew we had to do it in 2016. We knew how high the stakes were back then. We knew the type of clown he was. We knew the type of monster he was back then. We knew the type of monster he was even back when it was a lot of black folks still watching The Apprentice, even while he was calling out Barack Obama's birth certificate. But, you know, folks still wanted to insist on watching The Apprentice. I didn't watch it. But y'all, it was a bunch of y'all out there still wanting it, supporting his ratings on NBC while he had The Apprentice, while he's spewing out all this racist crap. So we're all responsible. I think that's why I partly agree. It's like we need to also like just take we all need to take every demographic and voting block, and Joe Biden too, his campaign. Everyone needs to take responsibility to get organized, to get mobilized, to get us all through this moment. We can't absolve ourselves of responsibility, putting the total onus of responsibility for this election on one particular candidate or one particular black. We all take responsibility for it. So we all have to act in a certain way. But anyway, let me let you go, Joe, because I went overtime and we don't have March Shea. Maybe we'll get her on after the break. I have to go to break. And we will, also, the time right now is 10:43 and the temperature is 88 degrees in Philadelphia, sponsored by the Beach Company, surviving the community for 30 years. For more information, check out the website at beachcompanies.com. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, phone lines remain open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
The coronavirus continues to affect us all, and AARP is here in Philadelphia, actively supporting you and your community. Every day, they're providing trusted information from experts, working to protect people from fraud, supporting family caregivers, and making it easier for neighbors to help neighbors through the new AARP Community Connections website. Learn what AARP is doing to connect and support our community during this unprecedented time. We may be apart, but we're not alone. Click to connect at aarp.org/near you.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio. Independent Black Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Phone lines are open. Let me go to Cliff out of Connecticut, who's calling in for a Reality Check. Cliff, what's good? Cliff out of Connecticut. Cliff, can you hear us? Cliff, if you have your phone on mute, you're going to go once, you're going to go twice, going 3 times. And Cliff, we might have to let you go, so just call us back. We couldn't hear you, Cliff. Let me go to Tyrone out of North Philly, who's calling in for a Reality Check. Tyrone?
Peace and blessings, good brother.
Peace. Peace, peace.
And
How
much
you doing?
love and respect to my WURD family and to all the progressive folks around the world. You know, before I make my statement, I'm going to say this, good brother. You have been saying over and over and over that this moment was going to come. You have continued to warn us. You have continued to bring folks on to warn us. And my comments are going to be very clear. Trump, what he has done or is trying to do is to, one, incite, two, try to intimidate us. And my brother, for whatever reason, all the folks in the community that continues to create havoc, continue to gun one another down, they're getting ready to see what all of the things that they are doing, what they're going to be rewarded for, because, and also, I don't want to forget the folks who refuse to participate in this political process. Mm-hmm. Everyone is getting ready to see what this man is capable of doing. I don't know who's seen the news and seeing how these so-called federal police beating up folks, spraying what you call them in people's face. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
There is something very wrong with this situation, one, and two, there's something very wrong when a political person used the tactics that this man is using. And I'm going to close with this, brother. All those cities that he called out, that he is sending these so-called federal police to, if their senators and their Congress folks don't speak up like the mayor, and thank God for our DA that says that he will lock their butts up if they come with illegal tactics, if they don't fall in line and stop this madness, then we're going to be in a deep situation, because a lot of folks ain't going to sit back and take it. So, my brother, I thank you for letting me share that. And I say it over and over, brother, you've been warning us that this day was about to come.
Thank you, and I'm going to keep warning people until we get all the way to November 3rd. So, yeah, some real warning signs, especially what's unfolding in Portland, Oregon, and a number of other cities. And the president has already said that he's looking into deploying federal law enforcement personnel or law enforcement assets into other cities in the exact same way. Philly included. He included Philly on that list. Let's go back to the phone lines. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. Cliff out of Connecticut is joining us now on Reality Check. Cliff.
Hey, Brother Charles, thanks for taking my call. Listen, I'll get right to the point. With Biden, why won't or why will he not choose a black woman for his vice president pick?
Oh, you're asking me?
Yes,
I think that I do feel, based on what I'm hearing, based on kind of like the landscape as it is now, I think there was a point before, like this very unique and also troubling period of unrest that we're in, this George Floyd moment, this Black Lives Matter moment. I think he was going to wiggle his way out of picking. He was going to try to wiggle his way out of picking a black woman running mate. He was going to pick a woman running mate, but I don't think it was going to be a black woman. I think now, based on some of the intelligence I'm seeing, based on how the landscape is shifting and shaping, he's pretty much like kind of boxed into that decision. It seems that that's what he may have to do, although there are still other names coming up. I see Senator Tammy Duckworth out in Illinois, who's a veteran, who's very capable, very smart, very sharp. I'd be very satisfied with her. as a running mate. But once again, it's about trying to mobilize and motivate the black vote. He's going to need that. The type of black voter support that he has, and it's under 80% right now. He needs 80. He really needs 85% black support heading into November 3rd. I mean, to get him over the top. In addition to clusters of independents as well. Like white independent voters. So I think that at this point, we should not be surprised if he picks a black woman running mate. And
if he doesn't, it really wouldn't matter, correct?
For me, it wouldn't matter, and I don't think for anyone else it should matter. I don't think. I mean, I would say. Let me say this, Cliff. When I say it doesn't matter, that shouldn't discourage people for getting this done. That shouldn't discourage people from voting for Joe Biden. It should make people very disappointed. And so it's like, okay, well, Joe, we need to get into a conversation about, so we got through this phase 1 moment. We blew up the Death Star. The Death Star is hanging over the plans, about to blow up everything, and that's Donald Trump. So we did that. We got that done. So now with we really want some answers, and you know what? We will take this away from your running mate, your candidate in 2024. I think that's where you position yourself. I think the moment right now, Cliff, we can't mess around with it. We cannot, and Joe Biden, we cannot mess around with 2020. People keep acting like they can play around with it like it's every other election cycle. We can't afford it. I know people have said that before. We can't do that, Cliff. We can't do it.
All right, brother, can I say this, man? What I'm saying is that we are at war, and when you are at war, you lose some battles. So when Donald Trump got elected this time,
this is not a battle you lose, though, bro. This is not a battle you lose. But this election is not a battle you lose.
Well, let me say this though.
Also in war, you make smart strategic decisions. You do what you got to do.
Exactly.
And
that's exactly my point.
Tapping out because he doesn't pick a black woman running mate. It's not the smart strategic move. I'm just going to be front about that.
Okay,
I'll be disappointed. But go ahead.
All I'm saying is that the black woman has resurrected Joe Biden. That white boy was dead when it came out of South Carolina. It was the black woman that raised him up. If he doesn't have an obligation and a commitment to choose a black woman, how can we trust him when he gets in office?
Bro, are you looking at what's in the office right now? You got like, are you looking at the madman? Are you looking at the monster that's in the White House right now? Come on, Cliff, you're being unreasonable. Cliff, you're being unreasonable. You know damn well. Look at you see the monster who created what we're in right now, who created the conditions that we are in at this exact moment. Joe Biden is nowhere near as evil as that. What's that?
When it comes down to white people, they're all monsters that occupy both parties. So what I'm saying is that we need to be, as a people, as a black people, to be respected, and we are not respected by the Democratic Party.
We're not going to gain any respect. Let me tell you, we're not going to gain any respect if we have no agency, if whole communities of us are not around because we permitted or we allowed the current occupant of the White House to get a second term. It's all over. There is no turning back. Like, we have to get this done in 2020. I don't understand how much more we can stress that. I don't think it's worth. I don't want to take up too much time, Cliff, but folks are going to have to. I still think we should not be surprised that Joe Biden will pick a black woman running mate. I think that's going to happen. Based on everyone else I'm talking to, it's more than likely going to happen. They've made the calculus. It's just a matter of which black woman to pick, right? But if he doesn't, for whatever reason, that's not a reason to tap out of this election. That's not a reason to suddenly boycott it. Not this one. Maybe you could have did that back in 2016, or you could have did that in pre-Obama. You can't do that now. Like, none of us can afford that. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Yeah.
What's up?
Good.
What's up?
Oh?
Maurice, can you hear us? I don't even think Maurice thinks we're someone else. All right, Gary out of Chester, calling in for a reality check. Gary?
Thanks for taking my call.
Hey, what's up?
Mr. Ellis, here's why I have a problem with the black vote, and I'm black as you can be. Now, but when Harris was running, Booker was running, we didn't get behind neither one of them. And I'm not angry with us. Now we're going to make this big old fight. Oh, she's a prosecutor. So what? She prosecutes. That's what they do. But we didn't support her. Corey did. Everybody knows Corey knows his stuff. We didn't support him. So now we left for Biden. And this is what we're going to roll with. It's not about we liking somebody. It's about somebody doing right by him. We need to stop playing as though I like him. No, this ain't about liking nobody. This is about somebody doing right by him. If he can give me some black federal judges, I'm happy.
Right.
Now, Mr. Ellis, what is our voting thing look like among the jitterbugs? And what I mean by that, 18 and above?
It's not looking good. There's a higher lack of enthusiasm for the Democratic nominee right now than there was in 2016. So it's not looking good. Thank you, Gary. Thanks for calling in. Thanks for making that point. So it's just like right now at this moment in time. So yes, that does put going back to I think it was Joe out of Germantown out of his point. Going back to his point, yes, it is incumbent upon the Biden team. Like I'm encouraged when I hear Biden ads like so early on in the summer, way ahead of the election. At least, there's kind of a basic understanding that we can't be doing this just like a month before, 2 weeks before an election. They understand the enormity of the election, of this particular election that we're in. But they're still not getting the message that they've got to be a lot more robust, a lot more muscular. They've got to flex and be aggressive when it comes to black voter outreach, when it comes to motivating the black vote to vote for them, because those numbers do not look good right now. As far as black electorate numbers. And I mean, black voters especially should be proud that we play such a decisive role. You heard Tiffany Cross. I mean, I wasn't saying it. Tiffany Cross was saying it. We got power. And so we should flex it. It's not going to be like perfect and like refined to the exact specifications that people want. It never is. It's an election. That's not how elections, there's no such thing as perfection in an election. You know what I'm saying? So it's just all about like you set out key strategic goals and then you perform your mission, and you also try to you get to that point where you get a positive outcome, where you get an outcome that works collectively for you in your best interest. But we can continue talking about it, but let me take a break because we're actually, we're up in the 11 o'clock hour. Appreciate everyone calling in as well. We have actually phone lines are going to stay open. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Mike Green is coming up next. So we'll continue that discussion when we bring on Mike Green, who's coming up next, our regular contributor, economic strategist. And so phone lines will be open. You can join in on the conversation here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Fridays, it's right here on Word Radio. At 6 a.m., start your day with Daybreak, hosted by Helana. At 7, it's time to wake up with Word, with host Solomon Jones. Then at 10, it's a special edition of The Source with Tiffany Bacon. Followed by Groundings at 1 p.m., hosted by Brother Shamari. At 4 p.m., it's Laborers Live, hosted by Lessit. Then at 5, it's Solutions on Word. At 7 p.m., it's the Envy McKee Show. Then at 10, it's Freedom Sounds of Jazz, followed up by Messages in the Music, hosted by Joey Temple. Fridays are something special on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live at wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
Brothers and sisters, we've seen enough. It's time to get together. We can do big things together. Just like they did, President Obama and Vice President Biden passed healthcare reform, helped rescue the auto industry, and created more than 15 million jobs. And right now, together, we can help Joe Biden do it again as president, to unify this country and fix the issues that we're facing right now. Real police reform, expanding access to high-quality education, protecting our right to vote, and rebuilding the economy so that it works for us. Now is the time for us to rise up and do this together with Joe Biden. Go to joebiden.com/BlackAmerica to learn more.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week. There is a lot of misinformation on the internet these days. It can be hard to know what's true or false, especially on social media. Where can you go online to verify the things you see and read? Snopes.com, that's SNOPES.com, has been fact-checking stories on the internet for almost 25 years. They check news stories, they verify whether politicians are telling the truth or not, they debunk conspiracy theories, and they can tell you whether that post you saw on Facebook is a hoax. You can also send them questions if you don't find what you're looking for on the site. There are lots of other websites on the internet that you can use to fact check, but Snopes.com is a one-stop shop for verifying everything from the latest news stories to everyday urban legends. With misinformation at an all-time high, we need to make sure we're not spreading anything that's not true. Snopes.com makes it easy for you to verify before you share. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal.
This message is from the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. COVID-19 is still a threat in our communities, but we can all do something simple to help stop the spread. It's critically important to wear a mask or face covering whenever you're in public or around others. Yes, even while social distancing. Wearing a mask shows you care for yourself and your community and is essential to slowing the spread of COVID-19. So love yourself, love your neighbors, wear a mask.
We are progressive and proud and interactive. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at onWURD. This is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com.
This is WURD Breaking News.
All right, breaking news from Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell saying this morning that Republicans or Senate Republican leaders want to include a second round of stimulus checks and paycheck protection program funding as part of their forthcoming coronavirus proposal. And so this will be like part two of that stimulus, part two of that massive omnibus stimulus that we saw from a few months ago. There was like this one-time $1,200 check from the March $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package for Americans who make up to $75,000 per year. So McConnell saying that he gave a floor speech on the Senate floor earlier this morning. He didn't give any details on the stimulus checks. It's still unclear if they will extend federal unemployment benefits, because the $1,200 stimulus check is separate from those recurring $600 federal unemployment payments. And so, it's still unclear on that. Negotiations have started to kind of gradually, as of this morning, take place, primarily amongst Republicans or between Senate Republicans and the White House. Democrats involved in a few of those discussions, but not at the most highest level at this point. So it's unclear what's going to happen to unemployment. I'm not hearing anything with respect to that yet, if they're going to extend those, because the expiration for federal unemployment benefits for that $600 recurring payment is July 31st. So we've only got a little bit less than a couple of weeks to go. And McConnell saying that they'll support a second round of Paycheck Protection Program funding, and that's going to be providing loans to businesses with fewer than 500 employees. We'll see how that works out, because it didn't work out so well the last time. But that's breaking news coming off Capitol Hill that we're hearing thus far. And we don't have too many details yet, but we probably could see a second round of stimulus. Now, as we had talked about yesterday, congressional Democrats about a few weeks ago had passed the HEROES Act. That was a $3 trillion package, a $3 trillion proposal, and that would, that would attempt to close state local budget gaps, would also provide a emergency relief for a number of resources for a number of institutions, particularly for first responders. Also, there was some components to that bill providing resources for schools, providing resources for childcare, just trying to close some significant equity gaps, some significant infrastructure gaps, or infrastructure that's essential during a pandemic time like this to keep the country afloat. Mitch McConnell has allowed that HEROES Act to sit on his desk, and he's been talking about over the past week or so about scaling that down to about $1 trillion. But now we're seeing that there could be a second round of $1,200 stimulus checks arriving in the mail or by direct deposit. So we'll keep a very close eye on that. Phone lines are open. We're waiting on Mike Green, 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Let me go to Derek out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. Derek.
Love, peace, blessing, and prosperity, Charles.
Peace. What's happening, Derek? How you doing?
Everything is maintained, Charles. I just wanted to speak on when we're considering a presidential person to run with Joe Biden. I think that it should be based on more than the qualification is a black woman. I think that we have to be in the mindset that who's going to be the best person to fill in as well in the case of a crisis, man or woman. Who, because Joe Biden is of age, and we know being the president can have a lot of stress. So who can step up to the plate is more important to me, is where my focus is at, whether it's a man or a woman, because that's security for me. Yeah. Because just going by a person's sex and color is not the way to go. The other thing I wanted to mention, Charles, Martin Luther King Jr. once said that black supremacy is just as dangerous as white supremacy. So I think when it comes down to representation as far as the parties, Democrat and Republican, there's some good and bad in all people. And the reason why, in all colors of people, and the reason why this vote in America is, in my opinion, is particularly important, because I see it clearly as a vote for humanity or a vote against humanity. It's that simple to me, because the things that our current president is telling us that's A-OK, taking Clorox or these wacky suggestions he's making to professional people whose business it is to see that Americans are safeguarded as far as health are concerned. So I think that we have to be careful when we call people monsters, because there's monsters in all people.
So are you saying we should be careful in calling Trump a monster?
I think that we should be careful when we say there's a class of particular people are monsters, all Caucasian people are monsters.
Okay, yeah, no, I mean, fair enough. I'm comfortable. I mean, clearly, the actions speak for it themselves, right? I mean, in the way that the current White House is operated. So I mean, clearly, we can say with all confidence that we have like one monstrous, completely evil individual in the White House. Yeah, but go ahead.
I'm talking about the caller said he believed that they all are monsters on both sides.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Right.
I'm talking about that because that's offensive to the charge that's taking place right now in humanity. Because when you look out your window or go outside your door in the streets, there's all kinds of people out there.
There are all kinds. You're right. There's all kinds of people out there, and some people have bad intentions, and there are a lot of people out there who still have good intentions.
Humanity, that state.
Right. We hope and I agree with you. I mean, we hope that humanity reigns on election day. We really do. We hope that humanity really, it must make a comeback on election day.
Pushing it.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right on that. And I don't think that there's anything wrong. I mean, some people, Derek, and I appreciate that, Derek, too. Some people might find that idealistic, but why not try to achieve that kind of ideal? That's the fight that we've been engaged in for so many generations and for so many centuries, right? Is for people to recognize our humanity. It's all about humanity, or achieving an optimal level of humanity. So why not? I think Derek makes a very fine point. So and let's hope that we return to some sense of that. We can't get it perfectly, and we're not going to get it completely or totally. There's still a lot of work to do, but I think it will be very encouraging. I mean, if we get a really truly good outcome come November, it will be an instance of some humanity restored, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. I think that's something that we should all look forward to. I don't think that's something we should push back against. Not sure where Mike Green is. I'm not sure what's going on with the guests today. Like, what's up? It's like people schedule things, and it's like they're not here. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900. 215-634-8065. I'm going to text Mike. 634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. Let me go to Antoinette out of Southwest, who's calling in for a Reality Check.
How you doing, Brother Ellison?
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I just wanted to call in. Yesterday, I had like a bad experience at one of the stores. I had to call a cab. And I was just suited up with my trash bag. And I went into the store. It didn't have any air conditioning.
Yeah.
They had one cashier working with the line going all the way down. They didn't even provide them with gloves. They didn't provide them with sanitizer. And
Did they have masks? Did they have masks on?
They had their own mask.
Okay.
And some didn't have masks. And they dealing with money, which is the dirtiest thing that you can deal with. And so I'm, explaining and telling the employees that they are essential workers and they're supposed to be provided with this information. And the manager start attacking me because I'm telling them of their rights. They had this little plastic, little wind thing blowing where they're supposed to have a plexiglass. And so she started attacking me. And so I had to checkmate her, put her in her place, and then she wound up calling the police. And I told her to call the popo. I'm not afraid of the popo. Call them. And then she was saying, I come there every week. She know who I am. And then she say, I come in there every day. And so when the police came up, his body cam was like below his sternum, where it's supposed to be up in his chest.
Yeah.
And so they coming towards me while I'm waiting for my cab. And so she got angry and started attacking me because I'm telling them they're right. I said, y'all picking up stuff and y'all dealing with money. Y'all could be catching the coronavirus and taking that stuff home. I said, you all are essential workers. They supposed to provide this stuff for you.
That's right. Let me. I'm gonna let you go, Antoinette, just real quick. No, thanks for calling. Thanks for sharing that, because I just want to make sure I have other people chime in. But you're absolutely right to engage management about that. We have to be careful, like how we do engage management about that, of course. But essential workers, they need to know that information. They need to know that they have rights, that employers are mandated to provide essential protections or PPEs, personal protective equipment for them. And also, businesses, if you still want to conduct businesses, you still want to reopen, you're going to have to do what it takes to keep your employees and to keep your customers safe as well, because we're all in it, supposed to be all in this together, and we're all going through pandemic. We're all at risk of catching some sort of coronavirus infection. And so, you as businesses, you're the ones that wanted to reopen, and you lobbied and you pushed policymakers. You allowed us to get to this moment where we're reopening prematurely. Okay, so now we're here. So can you please conduct, to Antoinette's point, then conduct your business correctly, and make sure that you're keeping the best interest and the safety of your employees and your customers in mind, since you wanted to be here, this is what you all wanted to do. So, okay, so let's just do it right while we're at it. Let me go to Tim out of Springfield, who's calling in for a reality check. Tim?
Thank you, Charles, for taking my call. We're talking about Trump, and one thing I always remember about a person is how they treat other people. And I will never forget when he was on the quote campaign trail, and he made fun of the journalist that had cerebral palsy or some disability that was of no fault of his. Something happened, and I say to myself, I always think of that, because if you were in a restaurant and somebody just out of the blue started making fun of someone who had the jerky motions and that, what would you think of the heart of that person? And that tells you what Trump is all about. There's no question. But my brother, who's a Trumper, he told me the other week that was all fake news, that was made up. It never happened.
Oh, yeah.
So this is the kind of mindset that we're dealing with. And that, as I told Solomon a few weeks ago when I talked to him, I called in, years ago I went to Newman College, and they had a woman there, a Jewish woman who was in Auschwitz. And she was going around the country talking about what it was like to be in Auschwitz.
Yeah.
She said the German guards were beasts that stood on two legs. And I view this guy in the White House as a beast that stands on two legs. He doesn't give a damn about you and I. He doesn't give a damn about his own family.
Yeah.
And I was a teacher. I would love to know what's going on in the school where his son Barron goes, the private school, if he's going to be tutored at home or if he's going to be going to that school. What kind of measures is that school doing to keep all the kids safe or to try to? And that nobody's talked about that yet. I haven't seen that in the news at all, but I figured somebody would grapple with it. But thank you, Charles. Let me vent. Thank you for letting me vent.
No, I appreciate you, Tim. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for venting as well. Yeah, I appreciate that extended rant from Tim out of Springfield. Okay, let's go to E out of North Philly, who's calling in for a reality check. E?
Peace and blessings. Yo, peace to Troy. Peace to you, Mr. Allison.
Peace,
I always love you when you be on Sharpton, too, because when that Wednesday come, I'll be like, yo, this like a double stack. But,
thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Listen, I ain't no political guru or nothing, but I am so nervous about the way things are going right now. Because if they keep pushing in this direction, either he's going to start, the orange guy, he's going to start a war in some other country. So they'll be sure there won't be no change in presidency. Because, people, when they're frantic, they're not going to try to get a new president. So we got all these things pointing at us. We got China mad. We got Iran mad. We got North Korea on some lunatic. You know what I mean? We running out of options here. And then we got black people talking about they going to vote for Trump. I mean, my own niece and my nephew is talking about voting for Trump, and I'm like, yo, y'all got no clue. What are they teaching these people in college and high school? It's like almost they pointing them in a direction to say, oh yeah, Trump has done so much. Like the woman that called Solomon show. I mean, she did so much. He did so much for North Philly. What did Trump do for North Philly, man? These people is out of their minds, yo. And we have to push the narrative that we just got to vote like the Iceman coming from the top of the damn mountain. Straight up, we are in trouble. If we keep believing this nonsense and all the stuff that come across the TV, defund the police, we can't defund police like that. We need police. We are in a position, if we didn't have law and order, we would be living in anarchy. Who wants to live in anarchy? We might as well just start, opening up the floodgates to HE. We all know the end result of that. Now,
it goes back, and you're right. I mean, it goes back to my earlier point about, the messaging has to be a lot clearer than that. We definitely need to overhaul. We got to overhaul the police. And I understand what they mean by defunding, but it's all in the messaging and the optics. You got to be like careful, and you have to finesse like the messaging. And I'm just telling you as someone that's been my profession, not so much journalism, but political media and political messaging. And so, we've seen some recent polling data in terms of how the public has responded to that term defund. We probably shouldn't even call it policing anymore. And we've talked about this, and I've written about this as well. I wrote about it about a few weeks ago in the Philadelphia Citizen. I got to take a break. When we come back on the Maurice Southwest, hold on one second. We'll take your call when we come back on the break. And then we have Stefan Hankin for a strategist segment. We got our weekly strategist segment. Stefan Hankin from Lincoln Park Strategies Tendency Research is going to talk about some of his latest polling data, which we've been citing here on Reality Check for the past few days. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Weather and traffic to keep you informed for your drive home in the happy hour with Sincerely Sarita. Monday through Thursday, 4 till 7 p.m. Right here on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Show some love for your favorite neighborhood with Word Radio. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays now through August 20th from 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. Shining a light on Philadelphia's neighborhoods with a focus on neighborhood history, Philadelphia's freedom fighters, and community resources that are helping to shape the city's future. Mondays with the rapping professor Dr. Aaron Smith, and Thursdays with Andrea Lawful Sanders. It's the Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour. Mondays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. till 2:30 p.m. exclusively on Word Radio. 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com, the Word Radio app, and on Word TV via YouTube and Facebook. The Summer of Freedom Virtual Neighborhood Love Tour is sponsored by Wells Fargo and Pico. Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD.
For over 115 years, Philly's top sandwich pros have always started the exact same way. Amoroso's, why Philly's sandwiches are world famous. During these unprecedented and challenging times, Amoroso's would like to thank its customers and its associates for their hard work and dedication as they continue to feed our community. This too shall pass, and Amoroso's will be by your side and on your table now and for generations to come. Want to make the very best sandwiches? Always start with the very best. Amoroso's.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Maurice out of Southwest, let's go ahead and bring you on before we bring on Stefan Hankin. Maurice?
All right, Charles, I'm going to sum it up for you right now. Do you want the hammer or do you want the fist? I'm so sick of these sour grape crying about Biden. We're too close to the election right now to be playing these games because there's people on the fence, and all they need is any excuse not to vote, and you keep throwing it out there because you still want the old white Jew to handle things for you, and he's done, okay? Where is he at with all these things going on now? Where is he out talking for Floyd or saying anything? I don't hear nothing from him. So leave him out of it. We got it. We want to get rid of Trump. Stop playing.
Who are you talking? Oh, I'm sorry, Maurice. I'm confused. Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about Bernie Sanders. These Bernie Sanders fans keep calling up here with this nonsense, talking about all the problems with Joe. Ain't no politician perfect, but we'd rather deal with Biden than the monster that's in there right now. So stop with the nonsense. We don't have a choice. But I'm going to tell you one thing. If he don't pick a black woman, he's going to lose the election because the strongest part of the Democratic Party is black woman, and he done lied to their face, and they're going to be hurt, and they're going to be mad, and they're not going to vote.
But he never said, so in the beginning when he did debate Bernie Sanders, he never said, I'm going to pick a black woman running mate. He did say, I'm going to pick a black woman Supreme Court justice. But he just said, I will pick a woman running mate.
But the mind thought of black women is that he's going to pick up black women. It's the mind. It got to be what's the truth. It's got to be what people think. You should know better than that. You know politics. And it's what their mindset is.
I hear you.
So I'm just saying, if he don't pick a black woman, he has no shot. No shot. And it's going to be Stacey Abrams. I'm telling you. He let everybody else think it's everybody else so they don't be putting a whole lot of firepower on Stacey Abrams.
But I'm hearing Stacey Abrams is off the list. I'm hearing Stacey Abrams. I'm hearing Stacey's off the list.
I don't think so. I think it's a ploy for the Democratic Party to make everybody, because they learn through elections. As soon as you put somebody out there, they get reamed on real hard. So they're leaving her out of the conversation, and then when he decides to pick her, now they got to huddle up and find some dirt on her. So if you're smart, that's just my, and lately I ain't been wrong at all about these things. And number two, no kids in school. Don't send your kids to school to come home and kill grandma. Don't do it. Do not do it. And please have, what's his name, Sabir that runs the elections.
Omar Sabir at Elections Commissioner, Philadelphia Commissioner's Office, City Commissioner.
I like for you to personally, this is a request from me, make that man open up all them voting sites again. Because that was the biggest voter suppression, more than what white people could do to us. They all got to be open. If you don't want to go, don't go. But you keep talking about this mail-in. People are not down with this mail-in. You see how bad the turnout was?
We actually had a higher rate of turnout in this primary with just vote by mail than we did in the previous election.
We're going to need more than a little bit of better. We're going to need a lot better. And more people feel safe from pulling that lever. And it's just a sense of pride, because we got to get rid of the demon. And we got to have people thinking one second. Because when I know on November 3rd, I'm going to walk up and down my block and knock on every door to make sure that they get up and go vote. See, that's the thing that we got to think of. We got to do this like when Obama was running, because I don't see the people out like when Obama was running.
People are going to have to. You're right about that. I agree with you.
First off, going to defeat this man. This is no game. People keep thinking this is a game. This is no game. This man get 4 more years. We're done. We might not never come back. So I'm telling you right now, you keep playing games. We're already getting kicked out the city. So everybody's going to be living in some the word he said, I'm not going to say it, holes around the city, but we won't be living in the city because we can't afford the taxes.
Wow. Well, no, you're right. I agree with you, Maurice. This can't be the cut off your nose despite the face election. It really can't be. And people, and it's not a game. It's like Maurice said. I wholeheartedly agree with Maurice. Folks are going to have to make up their minds as though I think there were a lot of signs, not just in Pennsylvania, but in other states, that vote by mail works. Vote by mail works. The big question mark is, should that come at the expense of fully open polling locations? Because they're having a big battle about that right now in Maryland with Governor Larry Hogan, who's a Republican governor. It's supposedly a blue state, highly Democratic state. It's about the population is about 33% black. Hogan just wants to open all polling sites because he got a lot of grief about the primary. Then the June 2nd primary, they had the primary same day as Pennsylvania, and he got a lot of grief about how there was some discrepancies in the way that vote by mail was facilitated and how that was all conducted. There were a lot of gaps, and people didn't get, people were requesting ballots. They were getting they were English speaking, but they were getting Spanish speaking ballots, things of that sort, or they weren't getting ballots at all, et cetera. So he's like, you know what, forget about it, just open up all. And now he's under an enormous amount of fire for making that decision. People are saying, well, that goes against like the public health situation that we're in right now. So, folks we're going to have a conversation about, do we want to open all polling sites, or do we not? And how much do we want to rely, how heavily do we rely on vote by mail? Obviously, vote by mail scares Donald Trump enough and Republicans enough that they're suing states not to do it. So apparently they saw something that we're not seeing in terms of the power of vote by mail. Stefan Hankin is founder, president of Lincoln Park Strategies, also of Trinity Research, and he's our longtime strategist, joins us here occasionally. Go to @LP Strategies, lpstrategies.com for more information. Also the great Trinity Research, some great digital insights, polling insights at trinity.com. Stefan, how are you doing?
Not bad. How's it going?
All right, good. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate this. So, wanted to get your thoughts right now. Just give us some of your top-line reflections on those tendency numbers we recently saw, what we're seeing overall. How good or bad are the trend lines for Biden right now?
I don't know. Do you want me to do the good news or the bad news first? So, I mean, on the good news, we're seeing this in national polling. We're seeing it in our own numbers that, Biden has a fairly substantial lead. And that's been holding through June into July. In some of the national polling, we're seeing increases in Biden's lead, which is nice to see. Now, obviously, national polls just kind of give you this overall view of how Americans are feeling. It's not how we elect the president, but even in the key states, everything right now is looking pretty good for Biden. So that's all in the good news category. What we're seeing in the numbers that is, I'll say, concerning us, and these are things that we need to keep an eye on and see how the trends continue. But, we're seeing among independent voters and seniors that there's a movement back towards Trump. Now, at the same time, if right now we have Biden up by 2 points on average among seniors. Now, if that holds, everything's going to be fine for Biden, right? This is a group that Trump won fairly handily. So if Biden's actually up or tied, no problem. But, again, we just don't like seeing the trends moving towards Trump. Now, the biggest concern that we have, and you had posted about this online, is among black voters, we're seeing a movement away from Biden, not necessarily towards Trump, but moving more towards not voting, or potentially a third party candidate that doesn't really exist. Right. There'll be someone on the ballot, but so now overall, there's still a strong majority of black voters are saying that they'll support Biden, but all these numbers point to what we saw in 2016, where there is, and now this is very tough to prove because Facebook, Twitter, all these other sites are not very open with what's happening on their sites, but everything points to a disinformation campaign that's happening, especially among black Americans, to try to discredit Biden and get them to not vote. And, that really scares the bejesus out of us, that if this continues on for 3 months and goes unchecked and nothing's done about it, that, again, it's not about that all of a sudden black voters are going to go voting for Trump in large numbers, but it's can we get 10 to 20,000 people to stay home in Wisconsin? Can we do the same thing in Michigan? Can we do the same thing in Pennsylvania?
Yeah. Is it just from what you're saying as far as black voters are concerned? Because I think you had about 16% of black respondents in that survey saying that they would not vote in 2020. That's a high number. Right. That's double digits. That's nearly 20%. So that should worry folks. Is that, and so what you're saying, that's primarily from a sustained social media campaign. We did have folks from the House Intelligence Committee saying that they've got specific information that there's a resurgence, a repeat of foreign actors meddling in the election or meddling on social media. Or, what about worries over just, public health, over pandemic, over going to polling sites and becoming infected with coronavirus? Are there a large segment of black voters, can we tell, that are worried about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously the pandemic has hit the black community especially hard. So concerns over voting is, I guess we can't really call this normal times, right? But outside of bad actors, right, that more black Americans would have concerns over voting is totally to be expected and understandable. Now, what I would guess is also happening is that people are fanning those concerns. And again, it doesn't even have to be about Biden is terrible, or, pointing to the crime bill, or, quotes out of context, all this kind of stuff that seems to be happening, but just amplifying the concerns about voting is good enough, right? Or if you are trying to get Trump reelected, that is good enough. And I would expect to see even more of that, to go along with what we've seen throughout these primaries, where, in Milwaukee, it went from, 100 polling areas down to polling locations down to 6 or something like that. Right. And lo and behold, all the ones being closed are in black communities. I would expect all of this stuff to be happening come November.
Well, we're talking with Stefan Hankin, president founder of Lincoln Park Strategies, also Trinity Research. Go to trinity.com. You can see those numbers for yourself. the latest Trinity numbers that just came out last week. Also, we featured them at the benote.com, at the bnote.com, which is our companion magazine here to Reality Check on WURD. Stefan Hankin is at LP Strategies on social media, on Twitter, if you'd like to engage him there. We're talking with him about the latest numbers in that Trinity report. You know, another thing too, I noticed that Trump is shown wearing a mask on Twitter, and he's now saying that it's or he's hinting at it or suggesting that it's patriotic to wear a mask. He's saying that in the context of fighting off a virus, a mysterious virus from China. And so it's as if he's creating, right, like this war between the United States and China. And coronavirus or COVID-19 is like the proxy. So it's
right.
It's weird. And I you know, how effective is that? Because I guess the bar has been dropped so low for Trump that anything sort of even remotely positive that he does, or just seemingly remotely in the best interest, in the best public health interests of the public, that he displays himself as being, that actually can help him, you know, restore some of his polling deficit that he's currently experiencing, because he's seeing the polls and he's bothered by that. He's bothered enough where he's like, okay, well, let me go ahead and wear a mask, or let me Photoshop a mask on me on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, like, clearly someone has gotten into his head that he actually should do this. I mean, like, you know, it'd be nice to have had this done about 3 months ago, but you know.
Right.
You know, but to your point, like, why miss an opportunity to be racist and or, you know, try to pit Americans against each other? I mean, like, they're clearly, you know, this is a zero-sum game to the White House and to his advisors on the campaign side. And I mean, this is like scorched earth. Like, we're just taking down the ship with us. And, you know, hopefully we can get, you know, scare enough white suburban voters to not vote for Biden. And, you know, and have enough black voters stay home, and that's how the math works out for us to win. And, you know, I mean, now, like, you know, you're starting to see, or at least, you know, like, it's starting to seep into, like, my feed, where, you know, people, you know, tangentially know, or, you know, people throughout the year on, like, Facebook and Twitter are now talking about how, you know, Black Lives Matter is actually a Marxist front organization, and they're trying to bring socialism to America. And it's, you know, it's just, I mean, it's just all over the place. And I feel weird saying the White House is good at anything, but, like, either they're good or the people supporting them are good. So maybe it's like, you know, the foreign entities who are actually good at this, and the White House just kind of blunders along. But, you know, someone is out there and being very effective in sowing seeds of doubt, you know, trying to get people to not vote, or, you know, certainly trying to get black people to not vote, and to try to get white suburban voters to be afraid of black people, Asian people. You know, I'm sure we'll start being afraid of Hispanic people, and we'll hear about a caravan, you know, sometime in the next few weeks to just, you know, complete the trifecta. But, you know, I mean, this is what we're expecting for the next, what are we at now, like 4 months before the election? And it's certainly not going to be about issues.
Yeah, you know, someone's figured out, whomever or a collection of bad actors have figured out how to make those social media conversations, how to make those public conversations, because I don't think it's just social media. I think a lot of it's on talk radio too. And I experience it, like, you know, certain people calling in, and you have to question their motives, right? You have to question where they're coming from, who's supporting them. Is this an instance of astroturfing? And I sense that sometimes, like, either when I'm on this program or if I'm on another program, and there's like open phone lines. But I suspect that these bad actors, these nefarious actors, have figured out a way to make the conversation a lot more organic, because people caught on, you know, people caught on to sort of the trickery and the you know, the sinisterism that was taking place in 2016. So they've changed up on techniques, you know, because, you know, fool me once, then fool me twice. But there's a lot of fool me twice going on here.
Right. No, 100%. And, you know, they've also, you know, very effectively, you know, they're using the algorithms that these sites have to their advantage, because they understand that echo chambers are created. And then if you can start getting, you know, different messages into different echo chambers, they can become very effective, right? So what if you are a very liberal white person, you're seeing a different Twitter and Facebook than a liberal black person, or if you're, versus a conservative white person. Like these are different groups, and they don't cross all that often. But they're just feeding fuel into each individual fire, and just using it incredibly effectively. And it's also very tough to combat because there are just so many different places that you have to sort of be pushing back on this. Plus, we don't really have the information of what's happening because of how unhelpful, Facebook certainly is, and Twitter's trying to be a little better, it seems, but it's still very difficult to track exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Let me ask this question too. I know this is on the minds of a lot of folks. I don't like to dwell too much on celebrities who inject themselves into the political space. I just think that they should just stay out of it. It's my own personal feeling. But I mean, what's the influence of celebrities like inserting themselves in the political discourse and conversation, like Kanye West, or even others like Chance the Rapper, or what's happening right now with Nick Cannon, or even when you have other former celebrities, folks like Killer Mike. What's the influence of that on the overall electorate, and even more specifically the black electorate?
Yeah, typically it's in the big picture, it's sort of like it's not much, right? But then it's not about being big strokes is what they're looking for. It's can we, like I said, it's like, can we get 20,000 black voters to stay home in Wisconsin? And Trump won, and I should know the numbers that right off the top of my head, but I think it was something like 12,000 votes in Michigan, right? So if you can get a couple thousand people to stay home, vote for a third-party candidate, what have you, that could be the difference between Trump winning or losing. So, the Kanye show was like a total joke, and sort of anyone who works in politics, the second it came out, was like, do you know how hard it is to get on the ballot in like enough states that you could actually win, right? Like, this is just A, a publicity stunt, but like B, if I had to guess, and no evidence on this, but someone, whether it's the White House or someone else, is like putting a bug in their ear about like, you should do this and blah, blah, blah. And it's not about like anything else other than like, can we get like 5,000 black people to vote Kanye in? Because we know he's not going to be on the ballot. So that's what they're ultimately going for. It's like, can we just drive the number down enough? And we're all sort of complicit in some of this because we like see Kanye, and then people like talk about how ridiculous it is. But then you're just like feeding the fuel because you're just like, we're talking about it, right? It's like I went on Twitter right before I got on this, and boycott the MLB is now trending, and I was like, what is this about? And then of course I go on and I find out about it, and people are talking about it, and then they're making it trend, and then again just creating these echo chambers that then can be taken advantage of. So we're all somewhat complicit, but like it's tough to not be part of the problem given how our sort of society works now.
Yeah. No, it's very interesting times we live in. Stefan Hankin is longtime political strategist, polling expert, and founder president of Lincoln Park Strategies. Go to lpstrategies.com. Also check out Trendency.com, and the COVID-19 Data Project is part of Trendency.com as well. It's been giving some great insights throughout this pandemic on what the public is thinking as they're going through it. So at LP Strategies on Twitter as well for more there and for more engagement. He joins us occasionally here on Reality Check for our weekly strategist segment. Stefan, always good to talk with you. Always insightful. Thank you.
Thanks for the invite.
All right. Take care. Okay, let's take a break, and when we come back, phone lines are back open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. We lost Mike Green. Mike Green, actually, he ran into a scheduling conflict, so we may talk to him next week. But phone lines remain open at 215-634-8065, toll-free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting fat paycheck except you're working. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
Warning. If you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt, you have the right to let us settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-965-5269. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible, without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk to call. For free information, call now. 1-800-965-5269. That's 1-800-965-5269. 1-800-965-5269.
Support independent black media and join the Forward movement now at 215-425-7875 or visit wordradio.com. Keystone First VIP Choice HMO SNP Dual Eligible Special Needs Plan has a 4 out of 5 star rating and is one of the highest rated Medicare plans in the region. Keystone First VIP Choice and you are better together. If you live in Philadelphia, Bucks, Chester, Montgomery, or Delaware County and you have both Medicare and Medicaid, choose the Medicare plan that is working to help you get better care. Enjoy extra benefits at no cost to you with Keystone First VIP Choice. You get benefits like dental, vision, and transportation to and from your medical appointments. They also cover a fitness membership to a gym of your choice. $150 toward over-the-counter pharmacy items. There's no copay for doctor's visits. They offer a large provider network, a great prescription plan, dental coverage, and even eyeglasses. Plus, you don't have to wait for open enrollment. You can change your coverage every quarter. Keystone First VIP Choice. The name you trust, the service you deserve. Call Keystone First VIP Choice today at 1-877-686-1760 or visit KeystoneFirstVIPChoice.com. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also on the noon hour at the top of the 12 o'clock hour, we have Timmy Lawrence and also Fred Ginyard from the Concerned Black Workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia. They're talking about black worker concerns, black workers being harassed and discriminated against by the Free Library of Philadelphia system. And this has been ongoing for quite a while. The director of the Free Library, however, who's been the director of the Philadelphia's Free Library system for quite some time, I think Siobhan Reardon, who's been, I think, director of the Free Library system for since 1999, had said recently in a newsletter that she supports Black Lives Matter. So black workers who feel like they've been mistreated horribly for years in the Free Library system wanted to put her money where her mouth is. So they're going to be talking about that with us a little bit later on in the noon hour. Looking forward to that conversation. As someone who half grew up in the Philadelphia library system, Philadelphia Free Library system is very near and dear, very close to my heart. And it really is upsetting to hear, particularly when you consider how much the black community in Philadelphia relies in so many ways on the free library system, how black children, black youth, people who, like me who grew up in Philadelphia, relied on the free library system, relied on our public library as a safe haven. And so it's really heartbreaking to hear about these stories of black employees coming out of the free library system. And so they're making some noise about it. They're going to be talking with us at the noon hour. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open at 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, I'm scheduled to co-moderate. I'm going to be co-moderating a panel on violence in Philadelphia. That's going to be happening this Thursday. It's a Zoom-based panel discussion on violence reduction and prevention in Philadelphia. I'm told we will have on with us the Philadelphia District Attorney, Larry Krasner, also Deputy Police Commissioner Melvin Singleton, also others including Shantae Love Mason, Dr. Dorothy Johnson Spite, and Pastor Carl Day, Greg Thompson, Bishop Keith Reed. They'll all be on panel for a Black Clergy of Philadelphia and Vicinity sponsored discussion or town hall on violence reduction and prevention. That's this Thursday, 6:30 p.m. So I will be co-moderating. I'm co-moderating that event, or at least I'm scheduled to. That's going to be at facebook.com/BCPVINC. They're going to be live streaming that at facebook.com/BCPVInc. So the title of that is Violence Reduction and Prevention, Gun Violence, What's Our Plan? And so gun violence being very high, continuing to be very high in Philadelphia and a number of major cities as well. Philadelphia is not alone or is not isolated in the amount of crime, the amount of violent crime that's taking place in the city. Philadelphia Police Department now shows homicides at to date 28% above where they were this time last year. We have now had 230 homicides in the city of Philadelphia since 2020 began, compared to 180 homicides by this same time last year. Those numbers promise to continue to increase and to go up. It's reflective of not just pandemic and a lot of the economic disruptions that have taken place as a result of that, but also the heat on top of that as well. It's driving. There's a direct correlation between high heat and high violence. So that linkage has been made in a number of studies. So we expect that. We've known that for years anecdotally. We always knew that. We always suspected that, particularly when you grow up in certain neighborhoods in Philadelphia. But the science has borne out on that. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900. So I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there at the town hall about the Philly Black Clergy. Violence reduction and prevention at 6:30 p.m. That's this Thursday. It'll be virtual. Facebook.com/BCPVInc. BCPVInc. So check that out. And so we'll be talking at least with the Deputy Police Commissioner. I think at one point we were supposed to have the actual, like the top police commissioner, but I think we'll take the Deputy Police Commissioner, Melvin Singleton, see what he's up to, see what he has to say. But there are a number of other folks, including the Philadelphia prosecutor, Larry Krasner, and so we'll see how that ends up. So I look forward. I'll remind people again tomorrow. I'll repeat that again, or I'll talk to people about that tomorrow and remind them so that they come on. That'll be on Thursday once again at 6:30 p.m. Elias out of North Philly is calling in for a reality check. Elias?
Yeah, good afternoon or good morning.
Hey, what's happening?
Hey,
all right, how you doing?
You were just, all right, pretty good. You were just saying what's uptaking the violence, several things, the virus, or you just said just now the heat, and there's statistics about that. But the major statistic that no one wants to talk about is in these homes, the adult behaviors, majorly contributing to these issues. I live in these neighborhoods. I see the behaviors of these adults. Why don't speak about that and pointing out to these people, take responsibility of your children. Stop this nonsense, because I see how adults' behavior are in these communities. They walk out of these stores, they have their groceries, they eat, they throw the trash on the street, and their kids mimic that. I mean, this is major. We never want to point that out about our adults in our community. You know what I'm saying? We never speak about that. We always sugarcoating things. You know, we always got to sound politically correct. These politicians that we've had for decades in our community, not only in Philly, but overall in these poverty-stricken, crime-riddled communities, they don't raise awareness because they're afraid to tell the truth about some of these individuals in our community. Take responsibility of your kids. Teach them morals and standards, proper standards in the home. Respect and education. Get your school education. Support the teachers as parents. But they don't want to do that. Thanks.
Well, you know, Elias, I would say I think we do have that discussion quite a bit. Just generally speaking in the community, I think that too. I think it's a both and. I think we have to also appreciate and we have to recognize the trends. We have to recognize the broader social, economic, and political patterns which have led us to that point, right? Or which contribute to it, or which exacerbate it. Because, you know, a lot of those behaviors, and you're absolutely right. I mean, those behaviors are there, and people do need to take personal responsibility for what goes on inside their home, for watching their kids, instead of having their kids just go out and run them. Like, there's a lot of people who, not everyone, but there are a lot of folks who are not, who are not actively parenting, and they should. They have to. And so you can't complain, you can't whine about the things that are happening, the challenges that are happening inside your community, but you're not doing your part as a parent, or we're not doing. So I get that. I hear what you're saying. I would push back just a little bit, and I would say, I mean, we do have that conversation constantly. We have had that conversation constantly as a community. But I think, you know, it's important when we understand and when we have a grasp of the context and we have a grasp of the larger trends. There's nothing wrong with having, I think that, you know, when things are happening with like white mass shooters, we want to unpack what's going on with them. For example, we want to unpack what's going on with them mentally and, you know, what sort of person they were or why they engage in those behaviors. We want to get into this real deep textured psychosocial analysis of those folks. Black folks deserve that. Why can't black folks have that too? You see what I'm saying? So I think that, you know, we deserve that kind of deep analysis other than just saying or just having one, you know, sort of, you know, just one-sided discussion. Oh, it's just about behaviors and black folks not acting right. No, I mean, there's a lot of context to that. Go ahead and finish up, Elias. But I hear what you're saying. I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but go ahead.
No, so anyway, yeah, so that's major to me because I really do see this. I live in the community. This is not. I mean, I'm bilingual, so I'm biracial. So you know, even in the Hispanic community, the behaviors are deplorable with these adults, and then you have our good adults in our communities. We're the victims. We fall as victims, and these politicians, like I said, I sent emails in regarding about how they for years allowed this assault with these type of businesses that enables drug addiction with what they sell in their stores today compared to what they used to sell in the stores when I was a child. I'm 53. And I mean, every single place, and I've been doing this, Mr. Ellison, researching wherever there's killing, right, in the city, every 1 block radius away from where there was a shooting, there's a Chinese takeout where they sell all those drug paraphernalia. Beer delis, they sell drug paraphernalia, and the beer's all over. You know, back in the days, there used to be a beer distributor you go to get your look. So why would we have this easy access for all these things that enables drug addiction in our community?
I think a lot. I think Elias should make a fair point. I gotta let you go, unfortunately, because I gotta get to the top of the noon hour. We gotta bring the Black librarians on, but you make a fair point, and I think it's high time for some kind of empirical analysis of those types of stores, those types of establishments as hotspots for violence, and let's see what we come up with. I think you might be onto something there. Let me take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we'll be talking to concerned black workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia. Timmy Lawrence and Fred Ginyard are coming up next to talk about the plight of black employees, black workers, and Philadelphia's expansive free library system here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check out the Source lineup on Word Radio. Mondays, get ready for the rapping professor, Dr. Aaron Smith. On Tuesdays, it's Andrea Lawful Sanders. Then on Wednesdays, it's the Black Women's Leadership Council. On Thursdays, it's a second helping of Andrea Lawful Sanders. And on Fridays, it's Tiffany Bacon. Don't miss The Source. Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. till 4 p.m. and Fridays, 10 a.m. till 1 p.m. Exclusively on Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD. Streaming live on wordradio.com and on the Word Radio app.
These days, it's rough out here. Some important things can fall through the cracks, like completing the 2020 census. You may feel at a time like this, why does it matter? It matters now more than ever before for our families and communities. The 2020 census could mean funding for healthcare, schools, job assistance, and congressional representation. Things our community deserves, but we must do our part now. Complete the census online, by phone, or by mail.
Shape your future. Go to 2020census.gov today. Paid for by U.S. Census Bureau.
Word Radio Digital Tip of the Week with Stephanie Humphrey.
I'm your Tech Life expert, Stephanie Humphrey, and this is your Word Digital Tip of the Week. There is a lot of misinformation on the internet these days. It can be hard to know what's true or false, especially on social media. Where can you go online to verify the things you see and read? Snopes.com, that's SNOPES.com, has been fact-checking stories on the internet for almost 25 years. They check news stories, they verify whether politicians are telling the truth or not, they debunk conspiracy theories, and they can tell you whether that post you saw on Facebook is a hoax. You can also send them questions if you don't find what you're looking for on the site. There are lots of other websites on the internet that you can use to fact check, but Snopes.com is a one-stop shop for verifying everything from the latest news stories to everyday urban legends. With misinformation at an all-time high, we need to make sure we're not spreading anything that's not true. Snopes.com makes it easy for you to verify before you share. Stay tuned to WURD for more tech tips and stay connected with us at wordradio.com.
The Word Digital Tip of the Week is brought to you by Comcast NBC Universal.
What's up, Philly? It's Sincerely Sarita. What a year. COVID-19 has shaken our communities to their core, and as we bravely but cautiously dare to consider life on the other side, we need to admit that things may never fully return to normal. But maybe that's not such a bad thing, especially when we consider the education of our children. Commonwealth Charter Academy, with nearly 20 years of experience of providing online education, is now enrolling for the fall. Visit ccaeducate.me for details. Here are the benefits to your family. Online public education complete with a laptop and headset, all at no cost to you. World-class instruction experienced in the safety of your living room over the internet with absolutely no cost to your family. Access to a flexible schedule that accommodates your work or extracurricular obligations. Visit ccaeducate.me today and discover the advantages of Pennsylvania's largest public cyber charter school as our communities emerge from this pandemic with hope, wisdom, and spirit.
Now, with more clarity, this is Word Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Streaming live at wordradio.com. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and wordradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com. Word TV, Word app as well. Continue to go on twitter.com at Ellison Report, hashtag Reality Check. Also, really appreciate, love some of the comments. I'm intrigued by some of the insightful comments, whether I agree with them or not, on our Facebook Live Word TV stream, our Facebook live stream on Word TV. Go to facebook.com/4word. Also, we're on YouTube at youtube.com/onWord as well. Joining us now is Timmy Lawrence and Fred Ginyard. They are leaders with or organizers for Concerned Black Workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia. It's a new effort afoot to highlight the struggles of black employees, black workers within the Free Library System of Philadelphia. That's been going on for quite some time, but they are putting the current Free Library System director on the spot because she said Black Lives Matter. So now it's time for her to take money to market. Here we have Timmy Lawrence and Fred Ginyard joining us now here live on Reality Check. How are you both doing?
Good. Hello. How are you?
All right. Good.
I'm good as well. Thank you for having us on your show.
All right. Thank you. Do I have the names correct here? Who's Timmy and who's Fred?
Hello, I'm Timmy Lawrence.
Okay, great.
And I'm Fred Guignard.
Okay, excellent. Okay, I just want to make sure I had the names pronounced correctly and all that too. Okay, great. Timmy, let me start with you. Describe what's happening in the Philadelphia library system right now that's prompted you, that's moved you into organizing this massive effort of Black workers. It's a big effort. There are nearly 500 Black workers throughout the free library system, and it's as of late, it's been a very vocal effort. And I think there was this 2018 survey, pre-pandemic survey, which said that 86% of Black library workers had said they had experienced and observed bias in the workplace. Talk a bit about that.
Yeah. So, well, for me, I am a recent organizer for for concerned Black workers. But from what I do see and what I've also experienced is that, you know, Black workers of the free library, like, we're tired of experiencing the things that we are experiencing, especially when it comes to a lot of the racist stuff that we have to deal with. And for once, because we're getting so much validity from, you know, the overall uprising from the entire Black Lives Matter movement, that we've decided to organize ourselves to get our demands met for what we need as librarian workers to fully do our jobs and to do our service to the library. But we can't really do that when we're facing all of these issues. So we need to draw our stance clear in the sand is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, Fred, talk about some of those, like, what are some, and I have you too, Timmy, weigh in on this as well, but Fred, going to you, what are some of those, like, racist experiences, some of that biased treatment that you've experienced? Any specific examples? Anything that both of you, I'll start with you, Fred, and I'll go to you, Timmy. Anything that you've dealt with specifically that you're okay with sharing?
Yeah. So I've been at the library for 3 years. I'm the North Central Community Organizer, and in my role, like, I've had to experience bias by white workers and supervisors since I've been in the library system. You know, my first interaction with bias at the library was probably about a month into my role, where a library executive member, a member of the executive team, told me that it's okay for people to come into a library and say Black people should be shot, unarmed Black people should be shot by police. It's okay for that to happen. And then I told her, and I always try and give benefit of the doubt, right? Like, I always want to verify. And I'm like, what I'm hearing you say is that someone could come into this space and say, I should be shot in the back by police officers, and that's okay. And she told me yes, because it's a divergent opinion. We have to create a space for all opinions. And I'm like, but we're talking about hate speech, right? We're talking about somebody being killed for no reason, and that's okay. And she's like, yeah. And she was repentant. And the director of the library sent an email 3 or 4 months later saying, while her comments were reprehensible, right? They were horrible comments. There was no action to be taken. So it's okay for them to just kind of get away with saying these things. I had another coworker who I wanted to put up a pride flag inside of our library as a symbol of openness and welcoming and being welcome to the LGBTQ community.
Yeah.
She told me that if I'm going to put up a pride flag, that then she should be able to put up a Confederate flag and a white heterosexual Christian woman flag. And then I reported her. Nothing happened. Nothing happened. And so that is just 2 instances of the intentional racism, right, that we've seen in the libraries that I've experienced personally. And to be clear, right, like, this conversation around racism in the library goes way beyond me. You know, some of my colleagues that I've talked to who've been at the library for 40 years have been experiencing this for 40 years.
That was my next question too, and Timmy, weigh in on that, because you both have described there being there, a relatively short period of time, but I know that there are Black library workers who've been there probably since I was a a young person, since I was a kid going into the free library system. And so, you know, and I wondered about that, if, you know, if these experiences that you're describing, if they're generational in some respects, or, I mean, you all are kind of collectively on the same page right now that there is a high level of bias and racism that's operating within the library system. And Timmy, feel free to share some of your experiences too.
Oh, yeah. So I've been working at the library for 5 years now, and for the first 4 years, I worked as a team leadership assistant, which essentially is just like a team worker who's like a little bit of a library assistant. And I think my most prominent racist experience is being the quote-unquote like token black kid, right? So I was the only kind of black young worker at the library, and sometimes it would put me into awkward positions where I would have to like represent the entire black community or represent like the entire like youth community. And it would just be very problematic. Sometimes some things would be said that were like slight microaggressions.
Yeah.
And that's really what I experienced. And I think when we're talking about, you know, racial bias at the library, that we have to talk about all the, you know, differing degrees of severity of racism, so that tokenism is also taken just as seriously as, you know, as Fred and his experiences have explained.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. You were about to say something, Fred?
And yeah, so the other thing that I wanted to add, right, is when we talk about this kind of generational racism and this, and you know, Siobhan has been the president of the library for 10 years, right? But this racism has existed in this system long before her, and she has continued the tradition of the racism that existed inside of our library system, and as well as the you know, the threats of silencing people, right? Like just recently, Siobhan sent an email to staff saying that we needed to tone down on our staff forum, basically trying to stop people from expressing their rage, their hurt, and their concerns over the racism that they're experiencing right now. You know, this is an ongoing issue where, you know, the library administration attempts to silence us. They attempt to stop us from speaking out, and we're not going to stop.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what Reardon's library system director Reardon's reaction's been like, what her response has been like. So that's been one response. I mean, what is she saying? Is she saying also, I mean, beyond, okay, so you just described one instance, tell me where Fred was describing one instance where she wanted black staff to tone it down in terms of sharing their experiences about racism and trying to form some sort of agenda to respond to that. But what's her response plan? Like, what is she telling you all as far as like, hey, this is what I can do to make these conditions, to make this climate better in the system?
Nothing. So her response has been, we've hired diverse force to come in, and we're going to hire a diversity and inclusion officer. Mind you, these are things she's said to us 2 years ago. Right, when she was before City Council, and Cindy Bass grilled her on her plan for diversity and inclusion, and she didn't really have an answer then, and she still doesn't have an answer now. I mean, she, you know, one of the letters that she actually sent to concerned black workers was actually authored by a crisis management firm, right? He wasn't even the actual author of the letter that she sent to us. To us, it was a slap in the face. It's like, we are literally coming to you with our stories, right? We're asking you to solve the problem, and you're not. You're giving us nothing but lip service. And that's it.
You know, I wonder too, so, you know, about the staffing, can you give, or can you break down the demographics of library leadership? So we have a white woman at the top who's the director of the Free Library System of Philadelphia. In many ways, it's just kind of predictable. It's not surprising. But you've got over 800 employees overall throughout the system. 391 employees are black, 351 are white, 27 Asian, 24 Hispanic, Latino. For black employees, it seems like things are somewhat proportional to the city population, but that's still problematic, right? Like both of you addressed that. There's no, is there any like senior black leadership in the free library system? Any senior management, or the senior management that's there? Are they helpful at all?
No. So in terms of our senior management level, our executive team is predominantly white. There is, and please forgive me, I don't know the specific numbers off the top of my head, but I think there's like one or two members, and I'm actually looking, we have a breakdown of this, and I'm trying to find it right now. But the folk who are people of color who are in leadership positions in terms of on the executive team, it doesn't feel like they're supportive, right? Because what we consistently see and hear is Siobhan and her message of not doing anything, not directly addressing the demands of concerned black workers. And so I would, at this point, I really don't feel like they're helping the situation, because all we see is a lack of engagement, a lack of conversation with us, or not necessarily conversation, right? Because they keep asking us to meet, and we don't want to meet, right? We want action. We want to see, what are you going to do? We've been having this conversation with Siobhan, I know for me, right, for over 2 years, and we still aren't seeing anything. Since the first time, I reported an issue of bias that she directly knew about and did nothing to address.
What is that? What exactly is that agenda too? Could you outline for us kind of like what are the 3, 4, 5 points or action points or action demands that you're making as concerned black workers collectively of the free library system? What are those demands that you're making on the director right now? Timmy or Fred? Timmy?
Oh, yes, I have it pulled up right here. So, well, for number one, that we need a commitment to protecting black lives on staff, right? Because we know that black people are disproportionately being, unfortunately losing their lives to COVID, and also a lot about with racial violence tensions around certain neighborhoods of certain libraries. So that is a definite first one that we need. And then secondly, we need a formal and transparent investigation of black staff concerns regarding the physical safety of these free library locations. And then third, we need a plan that developed with black staff to provide library services to take into account black people's increased COVID-19 infections and mortality rates. Number 4, we need support and accommodation for black staff whose library work has made them susceptible to racial violence. Number 5, we need to provide black staff with the same opportunities to work from home as white staff have. And number 6, we demand that staff with librarian degrees who work in management, executives, and specialty positions to be redeployed to cover for the shortage of staff due to COVID-19 and the layoff of seasonal employees that we've had, of whom mostly were black who were laid off. And then most importantly, number 7, we are calling for Siobhan to be fired, and she needs to resign from her position.
And just to
go ahead, Fred.
Just to follow on your question in terms of the breakdown of our executive team, there are 3 black staff members, 1 Asian staff person, and the rest of our executive team is white.
The the other thing too, I wonder, have you been talking to policymakers in the city? I mean, have you been talking to folks in the mayor's office and city council about like what are those discussions and conversations like? What sort of oversight are they? And I mean, I understand it's a pandemic, and so there are pressures on every city agency, including the free library. And so folks, I wonder in a moment like this, are they prioritizing those types of concerns? I mean, the free library system is one of those gems that Philadelphia prides itself on. And so this is very troubling when you have such a large, massive segment of the free library employee population going through that kind of duress. And so, but what are they saying? What are policymakers like? What are folks in city council saying?
So we've sent our letters to city council, but we haven't met with any city council members directly yet.
They haven't reached out to you?
We've gotten a couple of emails from council members, but not all of them. No.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Who in city council have you reached out to? Has it been like all the city council members, or I'm just curious?
So we sent our initial letter to all of the city council members.
Okay, and you've only gotten a couple of who responded. But you know what? Both of you kind of describe why, because I literally half grew up. I spent an enormous amount of time. I had a free library, Logan Library, literally just 100 yards from where I grew up. So, and I was in that place a lot. I half grew up there. So I understand the value of a library, especially the value of libraries to Black communities. But I want to hear it from you both. Timmy, starting with you, like why should people be concerned about this? Why should people be gravely concerned and sort of spurred into action over how Black employees are treated at the library? Why is the library system so important to people, and especially Black people in Philadelphia?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think everyone should be concerned first and foremost because Black lives matter, and specifically Black workers definitely matter even more. And the amount of library services that we provide to our communities, just from the little things to the big things, is a reason to why everybody should be concerned about this. A library is a very crucial part of a community. It's a community hub. It's where a lot of people go. And you talking about Logan Library, I used to live a couple of blocks from Logan Library, too. So I definitely went there a lot in my childhood. And for me personally, also working with the library, even in high school, it just set me on a complete, with new opportunities and stuff like that, and the complete set path that has helped me. So that's why I believe in order to make things better for the next generation of Black workers and, to make sure that we're just making things right as they are now is the reason why everybody should be concerned with this.
Yeah. No, Fred?
So, racism doesn't stop at Black workers in the library system. And in my time at the library system, right, I've watched, white librarians who have said offensive things to community members. I've watched community members say offensive things to library workers and nothing be done about it, right? Like, this isn't just a worker issue, right? Like, a couple years ago, the cops were called on a Black mother and her child inside of a library. And that was silence, right? Like, no one knows that this happened. And it's unacceptable. It is unacceptable, right? Like, we need to end racism, period. Black Lives Matter. And right, like, this isn't just about racism against Black workers, right?
Yeah.
This is about racism that happens in the library system, not just the Black workers, but the Black people in general. One of the libraries I worked in, they literally had the guard follow 5 young Black teenagers who came into the library to get some water. They literally were across the street at a park playing basketball, came into the library to get some water, and the guard's following them. And I asked, I said, why did you call the guard? Like, what was the point of calling the guard? Oh, because they're up to something. Huh? Like, what do you mean they're up to something? How do you know that? They literally just walked in the door. Oh, well, I can tell. Because you're looking at them? Like, no, that is a problem. That is a problem. And so if we can't even address the issues of racism and oppression with our staff, we're definitely not going to do it for our community.
Yeah.
And
where you all, I'm real curious. Are you all online yet? Like, are you on social media, or do you have a website? Like, how's that? What's that look like? That whole sort of communications apparatus for this effort?
Yeah. So we have an email address for folks who are interested in just getting involved and learning more about what we're doing. And then we also have an IG. Which is, so the ID is change the FLP.
Change.
The FLP.
What was that? Oh, change FLP.
Right.
Okay, got it. Okay, that's on Instagram. Okay, got it. And so, yeah, definitely looking forward to some follow-up. Hopefully we can expand that. We can expand that effort, and we can sort of help expand that communications effort so we can get the word out and put a bit more pressure on the library system. We've been joined. I got to let you both go because we ran up on break, but this is this won't be the last time that we talk to you. So next time we talk to you, let's get an update. We've been talking with Timmy Lawrence and also Fred Ginyard. They are organizers for Concerned Black Workers of the Free Library of Philadelphia, and you can go to Change at FLP on Instagram, if I got that correct. But definitely we'll provide more information. Go to #RealityCheck. We've provided excerpts of this conversation on Twitter at Ellison Report, #RealityCheck, and I'm sure we'll be following up with them in short order. Thank you both. Really appreciate that. Please take care, be safe, and let us know if you're receiving any sort of pushback just because you appeared on this program today. We're gonna try to reach out to Director Reardon as well.
Yep, we absolutely will. Yes, thank you. And our email, just for folk who may be interested in it, is blackworkersflp@gmail.com.
Okay, blackworkersflp@gmail.com. Got it. All right. So that's blackworkersflp@gmail.com if you need to get in touch with them. All right. Listen, thank you both, and please be safe. All right. We're going to take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk about police reform inside Pennsylvania. Police reform, there's a whole sort of passel of police reform bills, criminal justice reform bills that are in Harrisburg, or they're being presented or introduced in Harrisburg. So we're going to talk about that with Jessica Barnett, Senior Policy Analyst with the Commonwealth Foundation. Coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So you just finished binge watching that entire TV series? Now it's time to binge listen at WordRadio.com. Check out our archives of WURD on demand and listen to some of the most memorable moments from your favorite hosts. Word Radio on demand. Check it out right now at WordRadio.com/podcasts.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions: assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto body technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net, or call 215-848-5949 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
No fear, just facts. This is WURD, independent black media.
These are the sounds of a dinner that almost didn't happen. A dinner now served, thanks to people like you. Due to COVID-19, 17 million more Americans may face hunger. Feeding America is helping our neighbors in need. And if you're able, you can too. Donations are being accepted at feedingamerica.org/coronavirus. Brought to you by the Ad Council and Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV, Word app. So welcome back. Go to @Ellison Report, #Reality Check, @Ellison Report, #Reality Check on Twitter, and for more there, and for more highlights, on our conversation with concerned black workers of the Free Library System of Philadelphia. So we hope to have more conversations with the leadership of Concerned Black Workers, and we'll be reaching out. We're going to try to reach out to Free Library System Director Siobhan Reardon and see if she can give any insights. So I'm assuming the Free Library System, because they were tagged as we were quoting different pieces or parts of the conversation that we just had with two of those library workers. I'd like to have conversations with more of them particularly some of them that have been there a bit longer at the free library system, to get a sense of some of that institutional memory and how long this has been going on for. But you can catch that at #RealityCheck at Ellison Report on Twitter.com. Definitely looking forward to continuing that conversation and seeing what we can do to fix what's going on inside the free library system in Philadelphia. We need to make sure that we have a very strong and also equitable library system that is treating everyone equitably. That library system is very important. It's one of the foundations of Philadelphia. It's one of the things, one of those few things, those few gems, those few things that make Philadelphia the great city that it is, albeit a troubled city. But it's one of the few great things about Philadelphia is this library system. So I'm real troubled to hear about these ongoing experiences. I had kind of heard whispers of those experiences but you didn't pay too much attention to it when I was a kid growing up in the Philadelphia library system. So just at that time wasn't paying much attention. You would hear it, but you would feel it too. You would kind of experience some of those things, but didn't pay as much attention to it as I wished I would have as a youth, as someone small growing up in that system. But it's very troubling, to say the least. And so we'll need to talk with Director Reardon at some point real soon in the near future. All right, we're waiting on Commonwealth Foundation's Jessica Barnett, Senior Policy Analyst with the Commonwealth Foundation. Go to commonwealthfoundation.org. We do have Jessica. She's joining us by phone now to talk about a series of criminal justice and police reform bills that are making their way or have made their way through the state legislature in Harrisburg. She joins us now here on phone on Reality Check. Jessica, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you doing? I'm great, thanks.
All right, good. Good afternoon to you. So got a number of bills, more than several bills that you've all been focused on with respect to criminal justice reform and also police reform. What's so different really about these attempts at reform now from what we've seen in the past coming out of Harrisburg? Because we've been through this cycle before in Harrisburg, but what makes the landscape and the climate so different now?
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up timing, because I was just looking over some of these bills, and even though they were introduced maybe last year, when they actually got the ball rolling in terms of amending the bills, getting them through the chambers, getting them to the governor's desk, we're talking a matter of weeks. And in Harrisburg, that is a big deal. I think it's because there's consensus among lawmakers and advocacy groups working with these lawmakers that we want to see people inside and outside the correction system really treated fairly, and we want them to be safe. And so we're seeing some progress on these bills, or even just final passage, because they're meaningful and that they make our justice system fair. And that's ultimately what people want this day.
Yeah, that was a difficult task, right? Just trying to get a number of lawmakers on both sides of the partisan aisle on the same page. How did that happen? I mean, how did suddenly Republicans have an epiphany or some sort of, nirvana moment where they're saying, oh, wow, we need to be concerned about people who are incarcerated? Was it really sort of a moral imperative for them, or was it about costs?
Yeah, and I also do want to take this moment to recognize that there have been people advocating for these reforms for years and will continue to do so. So it's not necessarily that, people all of a sudden decided that they care about this. And so that's where I think laying the groundwork over the years has been really crucial, and Pennsylvania has passed criminal justice reforms over the years with great success. And that kind of laid the arguments for we can decrease the population of individuals in the correction system and decrease crime. So then building upon that, when we had bills such as the policing bills that came up, they are more common sense. So they aim at strengthening transparency, rebuilding trust, and really equipping officers to maintain community safety. So it's really that safety aspect that is crucial, and that's what most people can coalesce around, is how can we respect dignity individuals in the system for the ultimate good of making our community safer.
How to, so I'm a bit skeptical, of, kind of the motives behind, elected officials on both sides of the aisle, and so I'm thinking that it's a bit less altruistic than maybe some lawmakers in Harrisburg are trying to make it seem, like with respect to police training, police officer training, and also treatment. I mean, that at the end of the day, that becomes a liability issue for the state. Becomes a liability issue for a lot of townships, a lot of cities, and throughout Pennsylvania, cities like Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, for example. So I'm sure that there had to be concern. Have we explored that or unpacked that, Jessica, in terms of like how much that costs? Like every time you have a police officer or a cop act badly or engage in some sort of misconduct, that costs the state, that costs a city or a township or a county, that costs money.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. When you look at police officers who have maybe engaged in wrongful conduct and then the city pays out, it could be millions of dollars. And it's taxpayers who are on the line for that. So there is definitely a fiscal aspect to this as well. And the less people we incarcerate, the cheaper it is. But while that is a good motivator, it's not necessarily the purpose of the system. And I think exactly to your point, like, you know, the motivation behind lawmakers, that's above my pay grade. But is this a good reform? Is it a step forward? That's what we can, you know, that's what we can prove. And that where, you know, having this database of officers who just, you know, having information about what is their conduct so that each department can know the history of conduct. And then using that as a platform to explore, well, why are some of these cops being reinstated when they clearly did not uphold their oath and are reflecting badly on the rest of the otherwise good department. So that's where this is a good platform and continuing to build on this work. And that's going to, of course, be more difficult when you start dealing with even more special interests, such as police unions. But there is, you know, an element of goodwill right now, and trying to build upon that is really crucial.
Yeah, yeah. Because I know the governor had signed this into law, the database of police disciplinary activity. So let's talk a little bit about that. That started off as HB 1841. It advanced in the Senate. The governor recently signed that into law. I think it was last week. So my only concern there is that it's not available to the public. So it's like the public can't access this database. And so how effective can a database like that be if the public can't see exactly, okay, well, what's the sort of information we're collecting or the state is collecting on police misconduct throughout the state? How do we know how pervasive this is if this is something that's being confined to lawmaker or government officials only?
You're absolutely right. Transparency is definitely the key to accountability. And where the public can have the information at their hands, better it's going to be. So I would love to see continued discussions about how can we make this accessible. And there is actually an element of transparency with this where individuals can request via our right to know laws to access some of these separation reports or some of these hiring reports. So there is some accessibility. It's, you know, not as public as we'd like. And it kind of gets to the underlying issue, though, and that is that some of these records maybe don't accurately reflect true police behavior. So it could be that the departments aren't still appropriately reporting it because there's not as much of an accountability mechanism. But then also because if an individual or a police officer has been fired, it usually goes through an appeals process and ends up in arbitration. And then through arbitration, and it could be for something such as failure to file by a deadline or something, or it could just be because something about the arbitrators, just whatever the process and whatever the reason, we often fail to have these final determinations that are public and that we can see and know why somebody was disciplined, because usually it's arbitrated and then it's not really on their record. It's not subject to our open record laws. So it's kind of it's this tiered aspect where we just need to reform a little bit of how much accountability do we have throughout the hiring process, but then how much accountability is there during the policing? Can supervisors fire employees correctly? But can we also protect due process for police officers as well? So it's that balancing act. Yeah.
Right. Let me. I'm real curious because I only got you for a few more minutes, but you know, looking at Senate Bills 14, Senate Bill 637, you know, you're talking about reforming the probation system in Pennsylvania and the Commonwealth. Also, SB 637 is looking at relaxing barriers to employment through occupational licensing. So if you were previously incarcerated, making it easier for you to gain a license in a particular industry, like say if you want to become a barber, for example, or a truck driver, or some sort of job or a sector, employment sector that requires like an official occupational licensing. Talk about those bills. Where are they right now? They're still kind of sitting in the Senate. We're expecting them to pass. I just want to get a quick update. Did they pass? I wasn't sure.
Yes. So the occupational licensing bill, that is SB 637, was passed and signed by the governor earlier this month.
Okay.
And yes, so that's really important because a criminal record already poses a significant hurdle to employment. So this really just takes down some unnecessary barriers and helps individuals get a job, because we succeed when we can honestly work, and our law should incentivize that, not make it more difficult. So that's a great step forward. And then there's also the probation reform bill that you mentioned, so SB 14. That was passed unanimously out of the Senate. So it is now in the House, and that would help us address the fact that Pennsylvania has the fifth largest probation population in the nation, and strict technical violations, often combined with really long probation sentences, can set up probationers to fail instead of equipping them to live crime-free lives. So this bill really is just aimed at how can we reward someone who's fulfilling their probation terms quickly and appropriately, and then just manage for how long somebody is on probation. So that way we can prioritize resources for individuals who need that supervision. But for those who are lower-level offenders who would actually be adversely affected by long sentences, we want to get them off and get them succeeding, because that's ultimately what's best for individuals, for their families, for our communities. And that's the crux of criminal justice reform, is how can we have every individual using their maximum potential.
What about, how can you reform the probation system, however, if you're still not reforming the cash bail system in Pennsylvania? Because I know the cash bail system is one of the more sort of burdensome and onerous throughout the country in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so with cash bail, there is kind of the underlying problem there is if you're just too poor to pay for bail, and you get penalized. And the same with probation, if you're too poor to pay your fees, you can just be continuously penalized because you can't get off probation because you can't pay your fees. But what's really important about this bill is it actually specifies that an individual cannot be kept on probation exclusively because they can't pay their fees and fines. So it would actually institute something known as administrative probation. So basically it'd be a much lesser tier. Basically you'd have to meet with a probation officer once a year until you pay off all of these fines. So it's an attempt, at least, to not penalize people just because they can't make money. Because if you already are struggling to hold down a job and then meet with all your probation conditions and then pay all these fines and fees, it makes it difficult. You have to choose between buying food and paying these fees. We want to acknowledge that. So this would attempt to address part of that issue.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. You kind of like cash bail kind of leads to folks being who weren't previously incarcerated, suddenly finding themselves incarcerated and leading to that point of probation. So it's kind of like, cash bail kind of being one of the root causes of unnecessary incarceration. So let's see where we go with that. I think we still have a case too, if I'm not mistaken, before the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court about that. So I think that's been in there. I don't know if they've made a decision with respect to that. I've got to go back and check on that. But definitely we can explore it a little bit later on. I got to let you go. Jessica Barnett, Senior Policy Analyst with the Commonwealth Foundation. Go to commonwealthfoundation.org for more information there and what they're up to and what they are researching and exploring. She's been kind enough to join us here, give us a little bit of her time here to talk about criminal justice reform and police reform in Harrisburg here on Reality Check. Jessica, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too. Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, phone lines are open as we wrap up this Tuesday midday edition of Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Part-time job, full-time hustle, all-time Shiro to all of us. You nurture, we listen. You teach, we thrive. You lift our spirits, but we've got to lay down the truth. It's time for you, our Shiro, to stretch for the stars. Start saving more for retirement now, so you can feel prepared and live your life to the fullest. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
A message brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation?
Follow us on social media
Using the hashtag onWURD.
Be heard.
Stay connected to Word Radio.
Independent Black Media.
Are you looking for financing for your business? Well, the doors are open at New City Commercial Capital. For businesses in a position to grow, we are offering 100% financing for commercial real estate purchases. That's no down payment, no closing costs, absolutely no money out of pocket. Plus, the CARES Act will pay your mortgage payment for the first 6 months after closing. Do not procrastinate. This program ends August 1st. Give us a call today at 484-454-3592. New City Commercial Capital. Financing solutions for today's commercial customer.
These are unprecedented times, challenging how the YMCA works to strengthen community as we have for nearly 170 years. But we've always found ways to help people and communities in times of crisis. Right now, Ys across the country are providing emergency childcare, shelter, food programs, and outreach to seniors. But we can't do it alone. Whether you're connected to the Y or have a fond Y memory, we need you to stay with us. Reach out to your local Y today and stay with us for a better us.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on Word Radio and WordRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word app. Let's get to the phone lines. We have Brother X out of Chicago who's calling in for Reality Check. Brother X?
You got me, brother?
I do.
Oh, thanks for taking this call, young fella.
Yes, sir.
Anybody out there that do not want to hear about genocide of human beings, turn your volume down. Anybody out there that do not want to hear about extermination of human beings that's been going on for 3,000 years, turn your volume down, because that is not my desire. My desire is to sound a warning. The masses of people have been exterminated on this planet for over 3,000 years. The people who do it are called Caucasian, or they are resemble some Caucasian. This is where we are right now. Mr. Hitler did not overthrow the German government. There's a power structure in all these countries. Hitler didn't go in there and overthrow that power structure. Mussolini didn't go in Italy and overthrow the power structure.
That's what the history says, though. That is what happened. I mean, I've read extensively that history of what led. I could probably be a certified World War II historian and the events that led up to World War II. So, I mean, you just had two very evil, bad actors that had a lot of other folks that were working with them, in tandem with them, and that's just how it happened.
Okay, wait a minute. Let me get this straight. You saying Mussolini overthrew the power structure in Italy?
Yeah, that's what Mussolini and fascists that were working in conjunction with. I mean, it wasn't just Mussolini alone. It was obviously he needed help to do it. But, you know, let's not diminish the role of either of those fascists or either one of those evil players, particularly when it comes to Hitler. Hitler was a megalomaniac, and it was very methodical in the way that he operated and that he took over the German government and the German population. I mean, yes, of course, he got a lot of help when he did that. And there were a lot of different confluence of events that led up to that point. But I'm not going to revise history here. The history is very conclusive on this as to exactly what happened in Germany and Italy at that time.
Okay, brother, I stand by what I said. There was not no overthrow of the government in those two places. Now, let me end with this very quickly. This is
go ahead.
For the process of understanding or perceiving a coming evil has put many people into a situation of the utmost danger. That simply means the masses of human beings that were exterminated in the past, they never saw extermination coming. They saw bad things being done to them. They saw themselves being treated unfairly. They saw leadership acting crazy. But they had no idea, sir.
Yes.
They had no idea that the people that was doing this to them had plans to exterminate them. This
Yeah.
is where we are today, right now.
Mm-hmm.
It can happen to us right now, and all the pieces have been put into place. That's why
That's
they
right.
put Donna Hitler
And
in.
brother X. I mean, we in agreement there. I highly recommend. I urge people once again. I think I've cited this book before, and I read it when I was younger. They need to do a second edition of it or a third edition because I think they did a second. Chancellor Williams' Destruction of Black Civilization. So, and it kind of gets into that. Let me, brother X. I gotta let you go because I got to make more time for other callers. But I appreciate you. Let me go to Joe out of Southwest, who's calling in for a reality check. Joe.
Hey, how you doing?
All right, brother Joe.
Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
Periodically, I call in and I kind of, make my points and get right off.
Yes. All right, go ahead.
So I'm going to be real quick. I've been listening on, for the last 2 hours or so, and so I jotted down some quick points. Here's one. Just questions for discussion, maybe.
Yeah.
Are we comfortable with being called socialists? Are black people today comfortable with being called socialists? Now, some of us might say that we're not, but our behavior, because 10 years ago, a lot of black folks didn't use the term, but we seem to have been herded, and I use that word strongly, herded in this direction of total socialism. And are we comfortable? And those who are not comfortable are those who may opt out of the voting process. You asked the question, somebody said, why black folks?
I don't think that's, I mean, I haven't heard that be a very, relevant conversation, I mean, since Bernie Sanders was in the Democratic presidential primary. And I think that had a lot more to do with Bernie Sanders and his supporters than it had to do with black people or black voters. I don't feel that that's a conversation that resonates enough. I mean, based on what I've assessed and based on polling data I've seen, I don't think that that's a conversation that's really all that relevant to a lot of black voters. The vast majority, I can safely say the vast majority of black voters right now, last thing on their minds is whether or not they're being called a socialist or not, or whether they're comfortable with that.
Well, I hear what you're saying. I just tend to disagree, but I think we're being herded in that direction.
How are we being herded? I don't understand what that means by what does that mean by we're being herded in that direction?
Because people are uncomfortable with Joe Biden, who seems to be a
so who should they be comfortable with? Who should they be comfortable with, Joe?
Oh well, that person does not exist right now. That person, I mean, it's
they ain't going. Nobody has the time to get in on a ballot as a third party candidate. First off, and secondly,
no, I agree. I agree. I don't want to.
So what's the out? But Joe, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? What is the alternative? That's why I keep asking people. Wait a second, Joe. Answer the question because I'll give you another minute.
Okay.
What is the alternative to not voting for Joe Biden? What's going to happen? How does that make the situation better?
It doesn't. It doesn't. But we
what is the purpose of going in that direction? There's no sense. There's no rationale. There's no logic to that strategy. What's the sense of going in a direction if there's no positive outcome? If there's no outcome that works in your interest, that doesn't make sense.
I agree. However, this has been going on with black people in the Democratic Party for a long time.
I hear you.
A lot of people I talk to are disenfranchised.
But you know what, Joe?
Not because of Republicans, but because of Democrats.
I hear you. So I'm gonna let you go, Joe. No, I hear you. I've been in politics for a long time. I don't really come from I'm not really coming out of the world of journalism. I wasn't trained in journalism, just happened to fall into it. I'll be honest with you, I don't care. I don't. Right now, at this very moment in time, between now to November 3rd, I'll be very honest. I don't care. What people need to be focused on, mission one, is removing the current monster, the current regime that is in the White House, and having Democrats, which is your best bet right now, replace Republican leadership in the Senate. And then all those grievances that we're bringing up right now, which is just totally unnecessary and takes us off mark, takes us off target, while we need to be prepared and getting mobilized for this very important moment on November 3rd, all of that's unnecessary right now. It's just, it makes not a damn bit of difference at the moment. At the moment, it will be important once we get through and we win this very important election that's happening now. Otherwise, all this other stuff, like, honestly, like, it's white noise. It is, and it's actually being deliberately drummed up to throw everybody off target. It's as simple as that. Let me go to Woody out of Winfield, who's calling in for a reality check.
Hey, Charles.
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah, I guess everything's being trumped up, so we got to bring Trump down. That's the name of the game here. I appreciate the background in which you have. I kind of think you still should lean toward it a bit sometimes. And I don't have any time, much time left, so I'm going to get right to the point. The issue of literacy is still on the table, and no one's talking about it. Yeah. I want to talk to you if I have to bring you in here myself, because I see how the library, the free library, I got an idea, and I know, I won't say I know, but I think you would agree. You need to touch base with me, because I'm telling you, if you get a chance, read the article I did on June 2nd, and it's a letter to Joe Biden from the barbershop. It's in the Philadelphia Tribune, phillytrib.com, page 10A. I'd love you to read that, but I would like you also to touch base with me at 215-879-9935.
Yeah, I know how to get in touch with you too, Woody. Okay. I don't want you to put out your number like that over the, but I do know. It's one of the it's one of the to-do lists, and I keep. It's been crazy.
You at this time. It's closer to you going off, so I'm not going to hang on.
And every now and then too, Woody. Like I harp on that literacy issue. Literacy in terms, we did talk with the Elections Commission, with the Philly City Commissioner, Lisa Dealey. That is something they say that is something that they're addressing. It doesn't sound like they're addressing that aggressively enough, and I've been constantly harping on that, about like that high adult illiteracy rate within the city. You're right, it's something that we're not taking seriously, and every time I mention it, people tend, and I'm sure you get the same response. People are like, huh? Like they just sort of gloss over it. They give you like this glassy stare. Like, no, it's a problem. that is one of the reasons. That's one of the other reasons why things are feeling a little bit unstable in Philly right now. Because you have a high rate of people, the illiteracy rate might even be higher than that. You got a high rate of people in the city of Philadelphia who cannot read. They cannot read. They can't comprehend what they're looking at. So real quick, Woody, finish up. I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I know if we deal with the issue, since we understand that the slave was not supposed to read for 400 years, this is just a spinoff. It can't happen overnight. You got to start on this now. It's going to take time, but I do know we got to start with places like that free library as a program that I believe we could put in that library that's going to help this literacy issue, because we'll be welcoming people in that can't read. They go in, and why should I go to a library? The books all read, but I don't. That's the last thing a non-reader wants to do. We want to flip that around by giving them a little credit for some of the good things that are done, because most of those non-readers don't get in trouble. They are busy hiding that they can't read.
Yeah, they are. They are. That's why I think those illiteracy numbers are high.
Just contact me.
I will, Woody. I appreciate that. I'll try not to. It's not that I forgot about you. It's just it's been a crazy 2020. But I appreciate you, Woody, for calling in and reminding me and just nudging me a little bit. So I'll be in touch with you soon. We have to wrap this Tuesday midday. So Woody gets the last word, and it's a good word to have at the end of this Tuesday edition, this Tuesday midday edition of Reality Check here on WURD. We've got the source that's coming up next. That'll be coming up next very shortly. I believe that's with Andrea Lawful Sanders. If I'm not mistaken, correct? Coming up next here on WURD. So keep your WURD, your Word radio dial locked in here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, Word TV, Word app. I'm at Ellison Report, hashtag Reality Check. Also, don't forget to go to the B Note, the BENote.com for more there. That's our companion magazine for this show, Companion Magazine, and sign up for the newsletter as well. All right, I want to thank Troy Wilmore at the Board of Steel for getting it done. I want to thank the rest of you as well for calling in. Appreciate you. Please stay sharp, stay smart, stay safe, and stay cool out there, and start putting pressure on City Hall to get y'all some free air conditioning units because they're doing it in New York and Baltimore. Tell them Reality Check told you so. All right. That's it. I will talk to you tomorrow. Wednesday.